Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 3, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝗧𝗵𝗲 on Wattpad. Now let's start. As the second event just ended, the students were given a 30-minute break before advancing to the final event. The 16 students who passed the second event headed to the waiting room while preparing themselves. Others wanted to get to know who their opponent was, and others were taking a break. Izuku sits in his waiting room, doing reparation and adjusting his gauntlet. His leg booster is broken on one of them because of Katsumi during the first event. He was down one item, but he was still able to manage with what he got. He came prepared for this day to come to fruition and wouldn't let one mishap happen. Not with what he had in store for the end. One knock came from his room as he saw Kendo and the rest of his team in cavalry race entering the room. "Hey, thought we might find you here." 𝗵𝗃 came allowing themselves to enter. "Yeah, just trying to see if I could fix this." Izuku holds his right leg booster that was damaged by Katsumi to see if he could fix it. "How bad is it?" Kendo asks. Izuku placed the booster in his table looking defeated. "It needs to be fully rebuilt." "So you're down a gear?" 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗏 asked, thinking that he might be at a disadvantage here. "I still had other tricks up to my sleeve, 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗏," Izuku replied. "But I'm down one booster. I just saw your match lineup. You're going up against Katsumi." "For I see," Izuku said, sitting back down, knowing that with them walking in, a long conversation was inevitable. "I guess I got my work cut out for." "What's his deal anyway? Why does the guy hate you so much?" the big sister of Class B asked. "I meant from the looks of it, almost the whole class went after you right from the start." "Is that how you see it?" Izuku went on to ask. "From the looks of it," 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗏 rubbed the back of his head. "I meant when that blonde guy and Todoroki called you Deku, I figured you must have been known to each other, right?" Izuku looked toward them as he knew that this conversation was inevitable, and averted his gaze toward their eyes, knowing that he owed them an explanation for unintentionally putting them in crossfire. "To be honest, I don't really know where to begin. I guess I'll just start by telling you guys that I've known them for a while." "How long is a while?" 𝗵𝗃 inquired. "Ever since we were kids. We even went to school together until a couple of months ago." "I see. I wasn't always a Midoriya to begin with. My last name used to be Yagi Izuku Yagi. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, as in Izumi Yagi." Kendo sees the resemblance of their last name. "Yeah, we were step-siblings. But things got complicated at some point and I decided to change my name to Midoriya, from my 𝗕𝗲𝗏𝗺 father," Izuku said, deciding to skip the complicated stuff of him stabbing Katsuki and getting kicked out of the house. "At one point we were all friends, the whole class when we were little, but that pretty much changed when they all developed their quirk. Especially Bakugou. That loud blonde from Class A." Kendo cuts off and Izuku nods. 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗏 was next to speak up. "Time out. I'm sorry for interrupting, Midoriya, but I failed to see the relevance. As you know, I was born quirkless. But my drive to become a hero annoyed him. I always represented rock bottom in his eyes. As far down as he can sink. He always thought it would be impossible to sink lower than me. He was hoping to move up in life, graduate UA, and finally leave me in the dust." Izuku started to explain. "I'm sure that I don't need to tell any of you this, but quirkless people are looked down upon by society, especially in younger generations." None of them bothered giving a verbal answer. It was the sad reality of living in a superhuman society. Sure, quirkless people made up 20% of the world population, but that number was closer to 3% in Japan. Even then, over 95% of that consisted of the elderly. "For most of my life, I was bullied because I didn't have a quirk. Almost every single day at school I would get attacked or beaten up." Izuku continued. "1. The teachers didn't do anything to stop this." 𝗵𝗃 questioned him. Surely the adults had to have known about this. "It's like I said, people don't have a very high opinion of those born without a quirk. That included the school faculty. More often than not, they would just turn a blind eye to it or just write it off completely. Every time I went to tell them about what was happening, they thought I was just doing it to get some attention or was the one who instigated it. So eventually I just stopped trying. Let me guess, Bakugo was one of the kids who were bullying you. And that nickname Deku, he's the one who comes up with it. Kendo had a feeling that she knew the answer already, but still wanted the confirmation. Yeah. The teachers didn't want him to have any negative remarks that would have hindered him from getting into a top hero school. I'm pretty sure they saw his potential and realized that they could somehow benefit from him making it as a pro. I learned at a pretty early age that as long as you have a strong quirk, people will make every excuse in the book to justify your behavior. At some point I started hating people who were lucky enough to have been born with power like that. If we're being honest, I still kind of do. Our school pretty much praised him and told him that he'd be a great hero one day. And because of that, they let him get away with whatever he did. That's bullshit. 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗲 scoffed, folding her arms with indignation. It's the truth. That's why I decided to enter the sports festival. To prove that you don't need to have a quirk to be a hero. That anyone can be a hero. Well, that's admirable. 𝗬𝗧𝗧𝗏 praised his effort and determination. Seriously, dude, that's some dream you had there. Too, you think so? Yeah, you get pushed down and you still fight back and stand here with your own feet. To me, that's awesome. And who cares what everyone thinks? I know that if you've ever needed anything, we'll be more than happy to help you. Kendo smiles over to his face. The whole class, even I, will be here for you. Izuku blushed a bit seeing her standing close to him before collected himself. Sure, thanks guys. Yeah, me too. Who cares what everyone thinks? 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗲 added. Izuku stared at their group, probably feeling for the first time ever, that he might have someone who always be there for him. Someone who he could trust and count on. Thanks guys, I appreciate it, Izuku said sincerely before getting up from his seat and slapping their backs and shoulders in consideration. On that note, he left the room, slamming the door behind him as he began to make his way to the empty hallway where he would need to clear his head. On his way to the stadium, however, he ran face to face once more into Katsuki. The ashen blonde glared at him in murderous, almost looking downright pissed. He also noticed that there was no camera anywhere in the place, making it somehow convenient for him to come here. You finally decided to fight back, Katsuki replied, looking all smug. I've been waiting. Haven't I been doing that all the time? Izuku replied coldly. I hope you don't expect me to comment on that so you can record it on your hidden tape recorder. Izuku's eyes trailed to Katsuki's hand still in his pocket. I wasn't born yesterday. Punching icy hot in the face. Even I didn't see that coming. You grew some ball when you went missing for 10 months or something. Katsuki taunts him. Guess 10 years of me beating your butt isn't enough, huh? 3, would you like to know? Izuku replied, not breaking his composure. You know, your past is a bigger mystery than 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗲. I tried every avenue, legal and otherwise, but there ain't no paper trail on the last 10 months of your name coming up anywhere. Not at any online forum, or even a ticket receipt with your name on it. 1. Your old man is a social worker for some minor company, married to your mom, and 2 years later you were born and then just poof disappeared right when you were 4 years old when you got diagnosed. And next thing I learn, you adopting your father's name and learning support when you never show a single talent in school for 10 years. Now all of a sudden you picked up skills that I don't think you have. 2. Izuku looked around the hallway, glancing left and right. I guess there's no recorder running after all. No, Deku. Katsuki walks towards Izuku's direction, their face close to inches. Unlike you, I do everything out in the open. I'm not a coward like you who hides in a shadow. 8. Izuku for the first time, smirks in front of Katsuki's face before whispering calmly. In that case, Bakugo, let me put this in the open for you. No matter what you try, no matter when, no matter how hard you work, I'll always be a step ahead of you for one simple reason. And what's that? He smirks before he gets closer and leans next to him, finishing his word. Own you. 3. The next thing Katsuki knew, Izuku had butt him right in the face very hard. 6. RFF. Katsuki groaned, holding onto his head as Izuku made his leave. walking at a fast pace toward the crowded stadium filled with many spectators. Izuku stands in front of the railing stadium filled with second-year students as he pretends to cheer on Shinso and Izumi's match like nothing has happened. Katsuki runs after him out in rage. He grabs Izuku from the back and throws him against a railing. Katsuki repeatedly punches Izuku, but he doesn't defend himself while calling for help to stop Katsuki until he is pulled away by the second-year students and a couple of security team. The audience in the booth is in shock and shifts their attention to the quarrel in the audience booth instead. For hey, get off me. Get the F off from me. I'm not done with him just yet. Katsuki continued to resist while trying to throw himself at Deku for head-butting him. Hey, that's enough. That's enough, young man. The security team scolded him with a stern voice. Get him off of me. Get off me. Izuku whimpers in pain while on the ground. What happened? One of the second-year students asked Izuku while helping him get up. I don't know. I accidentally bumped into him while I was on my way to the stadium. I said I was sorry, and the next thing I know he came behind me and beat the hell out of me. 1. Security, I need a teacher on site at my location. I have one of the contestants for the tournament beating a fellow contestant for what appears to be a minor squabble. 3. Copy, Snipe is on its way. You're coming with me, young man. You're going to explain to the teacher what you just did. The security team dragged Katsuki out of the audience site. Me. You fake it. He's the one who taunts me. I just teach the scrubs a lesson. Don't make this harder for you, young man. Stop struggling and walk with me. Deku, you son of a bitch. When I get out from here, I'm gonna beat you so bad you'll be eating with straws for the rest of your life. Do you hear me? You're dead when I saw your butt in the stadium. You hear me? You're dead. 5. Izuku then gets help getting up from the ground, with 2 seniors helping him while watching Katsuki get dragged out for everyone to see his violent outburst and erratic behavior in the public eye. He thinks he just saw Ms. 𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗆 on the seats looking at his action. One of the seniors came to help him. Hey, what the hell happened? 1. I don't know. He jumped me, Izuku replied, feigning ignorance. That guy's always had it out for me. 6. Katsumi standing in front of the monitor looking at the matchup for today's event, staring at the name that comes at the monitor while looking for her own. All 16 names on the list already have their placement on the monitor screen as she smirks in satisfaction. Izumi Yagi vs Hitoshi Shinso Shoto Todoroki vs Hanta Sero Izuku Midoriya vs Katsumi Bakugo 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗔𝗂𝗔 vs Iida 𝗕𝗏𝗏 Todoroki vs Momo Katsuki Bakugo vs Denki Kaminari Kirishima Ijiru vs 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 wanted. She going up against Deku. He knew that Mr. Yagi had set up the match, to favoring more towards their side to be facing up against Deku and pit him in an almost impossible situation. To this oughta teach him that quirkless didn't have a place in heroism. Only those who are born with quirks can accomplish such a feat and become a hero. 7. She just looked at the screen that Izumi just won her side of the match and began heading towards the stadium to see Shoto's match, trying to pass some time before going to deal with Deku for her match. She walked over to the hallway while wandering aimlessly, not seeming to know where's the direction, and missed out on the match. She tried to go back when suddenly she found herself in some waiting room for the participant. On the door plaque, she found Deku's name on it, realizing that she was in his waiting room, and took a moment before entering. That he must be inside, right? I'm gonna knock some sense into him for the last time. Hey Deku. She slammed the door wide open, shouting for his name, only to find that it was empty with no one inside. Katsumi clicked her tongue. That demon Deku must have bailed out or something. She looked around the workshop table and found tools all lying around the table and one red toolbox on it. Judging from its place, she figured that it must have been Deku's. She figured that maybe she should ransack the place or take the toolbox from it so that he couldn't work on his invention. It seems childish, but it's something like a payback to him or something for what they did. She took the toolbox, not noticing that it wasn't locked and all the tools were dropping onto the floor and scattered. She grumbled and picked the tools one by one before she found something intriguing in it. It was something big, almost like a pair of scissors but more for construction or industry work. It was a cutting plier. One that you always find in the hardware store, not something that's small or easy to carry. She had her suspicion when Iida told them about Principal Daisuke's car accident. Even though his son told them that he was caught in an accident, she still thinks that something must have been going on, and the first thing she suspected was that something must happen to the car. Wait. Isn't Principal Daisuke's got into an accident recently? What if Deku did something to the car? What if he cuts the wire brake? She holds the plier in her hand, wondering if this is the same tool that's used by him. This could be the evidence that could sink Deku. 5. I can't let anyone know just yet. I need to find evidence that it's the same tool that cuts the brake. This could be the same plier that cuts Principal Daisuke's brake cable. She took the plier and put it in her pocket, placed all the tools back into the toolbox and put it back to the toolbox where it was before walking out from the waiting room like she had never been there in the first place. 9. The next match was Shoto versus Sero, as President Mike had announced to the speaker. Before the match started, however, while Shoto was heading to the stadium, he still thought of the fact from the second event where he almost lost to someone like Deku in the first place. The weak crybaby Deku, who they all viewed for 10 years as someone inferior to him every day. The same Deku he always beat up on a daily basis, trying to prove that he was indeed as useless as everyone says so. But now, Deku is not the same crybaby they met 10 months ago before entering UA. He's grown some backbone for some reason. Picked up skills he didn't know he had before. And even almost drove him to lose at the time. 3. Shoto clenched his fist when he walked by the hallway. Rage boiled up in his body as he could easily imagine himself losing and saw his cold stare looking down at him almost in a mocking tone. Back out in the stadium, both of them stood at the stadium as midnight started the second battle. I don't feel like winning, Sero said lazily. Suddenly, tapes shot out of his elbows as he wrapped up Shoto and sent him flying towards the edge. But I don't feel like losing either. Suddenly, Shoto's eyes ignited with murderous intent, as in a fraction of a second, a giant glacier formed over the stadium, completely encasing Sero and a quarter of the UA stadium in an ice glacier. The whole crowd was rendered speechless, and even Izuku had to admit the size of the ice was impressive. That's a little overkill, no? Sero asked while freezing. Sero, can you move? Midnight asked, also half frozen. No. Well, that settles it. Shoto Todoroki moves on to the next match. Before leaving, Shoto looked at Izuku with a murderous glare, as Izuku glared back from his spot. Just wait your turn, Shoto. Once we meet at the arena, I'll put you out so bad that you'll be crying begging me to stop. Izuku thought. Katsuki Bakugo sits at the student booth while grumbling with the rest of the class, waiting for the third match to take place, where his sister would be going up against Deku. He can't wait to see the look of his defeated face when going up against her. He was kinda mad that he didn't get the chance to put Deku in his place, but knowing that his sister did it for him is good enough for him. But a part of him wanted to be the one who did the payback after what happened in the stadium where he got reprimanded by Aizawa-sensei for his outburst. Flashback start. Katsuki is just being brought by the security team from the stadium, and met with Aizawa-sensei, who's come to meet with his student and told the team that he'll take him away from their hand. Being brought into the boys' locker room, Aizawa locked the door before facing Katsuki with that same look in his eyes. Mind telling me why I heard that you tried to manhandle Midoriya at the spectator seat? Deku started. Who? I told you it was Deku's fault. Bakugo, is that an insult I heard? Who cares what I called Deku? He's worthless. He's useless. He's beneath me. Aizawa flashed his quirk right at Katsuki, putting a stop to his explosive outburst. If I heard you called Midoriya that name one more time, I'll disqualify you from the sports festival right here and now. And the only thing that stands is a 5-minute paperwork and an official UA stamp. 7. Katsuki grits his teeth and eventually stops running his mouth with insults before calming himself, but still radiates with anger. We just got a report from the security team that's on the scene that said, you came running to Midoriya and beat him up for bumping into your shoulder. That's a lie. I didn't do SHT. 1. Are you saying that Midoriya lies? What for then? Yeah, he did. He fake it to sabotage me. Then mind explain to me why you were there in the first place. Weren't you supposed to be in your waiting room on the west side of the stadium, and we find you on the east side instead? Katsuki then holds his silence as nothing comes up from his mouth. He can't exactly tell that he came to confront Deku and left wondering why he did that in the first place, which gonna raise some questions. I assumed that you were just lazily coming out from your waiting room and getting some fresh air while wandering around aimlessly like a fart in a fan factory. Aizawa asked, trying to rile him out. 7 But Katsuki didn't give any response at all before Aizawa exhaled. You'll get one chance. One more incident and you'll be disqualified from the sports festival. I don't care if All Might himself recommended you. I will announce it on the speaker myself. 5 Seeing his silence confirmed Aizawa's suspicion that Katsuki was hiding something. However, if he were to press him any further, Aizawa would get nowhere. Deciding to shelve this topic for now, the underground hero says in a threatening tone. Head to the student's booth, and if I see you leave except for when your name gets called, I'll shout out from the speaker straight away. After having said that, Aizawa unlocks the door, allowing Katsuki to run back to class with his tail between his legs. 5 When the latter screamed at him, the former began to suspect something. This type of shouting was unusual since the explosive blonde could take criticism, or at the very least would pretend to take the criticism. Something was pulling away at the underground hero and he would do everything he could to solve it, one way or another. And the first clue that he heard was Deku. He would have to do some investigating and pull in some favors if he wanted to get to the bottom of this. But deciding to shelve it for now, Aizawa decided to head back to the commentary booth. 5 Flashback End Katsuki's mind is still fresh over what happened just moments ago because Deku tried to sabotage him just then. And the worst part of it was he got caught in it, hook, line, and sink. He can't believe that Deku tricks him like that. But that's to be expected from a spineless coward such as him to be able to play the victim and pull something like that instead of confronting him face to face like a man. 2 But right now, all he wanted was just to sit back and relax while watching his sister beat the hell out of Deku. Time for you to learn, Deku, that your place is at the bottom of my feet. Izuku stared at the monitor of the next match that was about to take place. He calmed himself down while closing his eyes, getting ready for his first fight against his opponent. He already double-checked his gear, tightened the screws, and did routine checks on everything, and nothing is going to stop him from advancing further in this competition. His hand is shaking, but not out of fear but with excitement. For the first time in 10 years, he's gonna get payback for everything they did to him all those years ago. Katsumi, Shoto, Katsuki. All of them will be dragged down to the abyss by his hand. 5 And he'll make sure that they stay in the abyss as well. Up next, we have the explosive grill of Class 1A Katsumi Bakugou, and from the support department, the ACE of Class H, Izuku Midoriya. Present mic blared over the intercom. Izuku opened his eyes before wearing the repulsor blaster on his hands along with his visor as he began to walk out and leave the room. He walked out towards the hallway. With each step he took echoes at the empty tunnel. While Izuku was heading to the stadium, he met face to face with Momo, who seemed to be waiting at the end of the tunnel. Izuku's face turned to scowl, clenched his fist seeing her standing in the way, thinking that she might be trying to convince him to drop at the last second, considering he'd be facing up against Katsumi. What do you want? Trying one last time to convince me to drop out? Izuku asked out straight to the point, not wanting to waste his time. However, Momo shakes her head in denial. No, I won't. Then what? You came to sabotage me or something? He asked, looking at her hostile. No, I just wanted to say good luck, that's all. Izuku's eyes widened for a bit, wondering what's the sudden change of attitude, thinking that she might be trying to convince him to quit just like how the rest of Izumi's friend has been doing all this time. 3 What's the sudden change of attitude? Izuku asked. I was wrong. Izumi and I were wrong right from the beginning, she said, causing Izuku to tense, but his eyes were covered by the shadow of the tunnel so that she couldn't see him fully. 1. I'm not asking for forgiveness, mind you. I don't deserve it. I just want to try and repair the damage I caused. I know what we did to you isn't easy, if even possible to fix, but just like you never stopped trying to achieve your dream, I won't stop trying to repair our friendship that I destroyed when I was 4 years old. Momo said. 15. Izuku didn't move from his spot before he walked past her and walked to the stage, leaving her in there all by herself before she joined to see Izuku's match. 1. At the stadium, Izuku enters as the crowd cheers at the arrival of the two of them entering the arena. Katsumi grits her teeth in rage, itching to pop her explosion and just go with it to release it, and Izuku, who already clenches his fist ready for the fight. Last chance, Deku, drop out or I'll put you down myself, Katsumi said for the last time, while internally begging that he'll reject her offer to give her a reason to put him down. You're itching to do it, don't you? Izuku asked coldly. Putting people down of their level to position yourself to be higher. Don't worry, I won't go for something permanent. Just bad enough that you were out of the competition. Izuku replies while smirking at her. Too bad there's no car engine or heavy object around here. Then it would be a fight worth watching. Katsumi boils in anger talking about the studio incident before he calls Midnight out. Start the fight already. I'm raring to go. Same here, Izuku replied. Midnight looked around before continuing the match. Both competitors ready. Izuku shook his head, leaning forward into a 3-point stance. He took a deep breath, eyes hardening. Begin. Once the bell started, Katsumi wasted no time in making the first move. Using her left hand, she created an explosion that moved her directly toward Deku. As she readied her right, she knew the match was over. All she needed was one good hit, and she would blast the green-haired nerd back to whatever hole he had decided to crawl out from. Die! She shouted, delivering the final blow. A thick cloud of smoke followed the loud bang. Holy F! Ah! 𝗬𝗍𝗄 cursed out before getting slapped by Shiozaki in the back of her head. 1. Don't bring God into this. Shiozaki scolded him. But seriously, is she for real? Firing explosion right of the bat like that. Hananuki commented. Midoriya, Kendo looked at the stage with a concerned look. 2. You haven't changed a bit, Katsumi. Izuku's voice rings as the last of the smoke clears, shocking everyone in the stadium with the sight before them. Not only was the green-haired boy still conscious, but he appeared to be perfectly fine. After getting over their initial shock, the crowd finally noticed the position that the two combatants were in. Izuku was holding Katsumi's arm by the wrist, with her palm facing upward and away from his face. 1. Let go of me, Deku. Katsumi grunted, trying to release the grip, when suddenly she felt the grip getting stronger than before, feeling like it was crushing her slowly. What's with the grip? It's like strong. 2. I said let go, Deku. The explosion quirk user shouted as she shot off another blast with her left hand, only for it to be slapped away before making contact. 1. Izuku then counters by aiming his gauntlet over to her stomach and firing off a blast that knocks her out and pushes her to the back of the arena, but not powerful enough that she gets knocked out from the ring. Katsumi may be the first one who throws the punch, but Midoriya is the one who delivered the first damage. Katsumi quickly recovers from the blast and looks up only to see a barrage of blasts headed in her direction, causing her to evade from left and right. The blast hits through the debris on the floor, creating chunks of rocks, and Katsumi sees it. 1. She took the blast head-on and realized how powerful that blast was, but she refused to bend her knee for the likes of Deku. She refused to give up and gave him the satisfaction of looking down on her. Deku! Katsumi cursed. 1. Immediately, Izuku begins charging Katsumi, holding his left arm out, and firing a repulsor blast at Katsumi. Katsumi tries to sidestep, but he predicts the movement, firing another blast in quick succession. This time, the blast hits Katsumi directly in the arm, singeing her sleeve and causing her to stumble back. Before she can regain her footing, Izuku fires another blast at her foot, catching her while she is leaning back and causing her to fall over. Katsumi rolls up to her feet, her mind beginning to fight back, and tries to recover from her stumbling. She barely has time to think before a metallic fist connects with her nose, sending her reeling back. Holding up his left arm again, he fires blast after blast at Katsumi, who desperately tries to get away before avoiding the barrage of blasts coming her way. What is happening? Why can't I react like usual? Katsumi shakes her head desperately. I need to disable that F gauntlet and I need to do it fast. 5 Katsumi looked up trying to counter back, but she didn't have time to avoid a knee kick from Izuku, who propelled himself up with his one-leg booster that wasn't damaged by Katsumi during the race. Oh, another hit has landed to Katsumi Bakugou. Looks like Izuku Midoriya didn't hold any punch against his opponent. Katsumi joins her palms together using her new move against him. Stun Grenade. She joins her palm and releases a blinding light. But the footfalls continue, and she watches as the shadow of Deku bathes her in darkness, not disturbed by the flashbang. But Izuku's visor shielded him from the light and propelled himself using his repulsor and leg booster to her direction and threw a punch right in her face. 2. Another hit. Izuku Midoriya is dominating in this fight, ladies and gentlemen. At the students' booth, Katsuki got up from his seat and yelled to the arena, "Get up, sis. Beat his butt right now, why don't you? Stop F around." 2. She crawled out from the ground and tried to gain some distance, running to the corner of the arena, but was stopped by another blast from his blaster out directly in front of her, blocking her path. She tried to run the other way, but a powerful beam scorching the concrete directly in front of her thwarted that plan as well. Again and again she tried to escape, only to be prevented by a beam shooting out and stopping her, corralling her into a narrow funnel, where her only exit was blocked by a towering figure of her opponent. She had begun to hyperventilate, her mind having simply stalled any higher thought than the base instinct of survival. The thunderous footfalls of her opponent echo in her mind, beating along with the drums of war. What's the matter? Her opponent calls her out, still approaching slowly but surely. I thought you were gonna show me my place. Or is the great Katsumi Bakugou nothing but all talk? 3. Hearing those words, Katsumi grits her teeth, blinded by her rage, propels herself into his direction, and throws a right hook packed with explosion towards his way, but ultimately fails as Izuku blasts her before she can make her way into his direction. 𝗕𝗪𝙢𝙢𝗢𝗍, she screamed before stumbling back. Same old Bakugo trick, not an ounce of creativity with that quirk anywhere. Only good for destroying things. Izuku mocked her, finding her nothing but a one-trick pony, while firing one blaster right after another. 14. She was standing in front of the arena, taking one blast after another as the blast from Izuku's repulsor blaster burned a part of her clothes and singed her hair also, and there was nothing she could do to avoid the blast that's hitting to her way. The blast continued to hit her mercilessly, but Izuku held the power a bit, just enough to stumble her and knock her from each step she took. Worst case, the blast would only bruise her skin. The barrage then came to a halt as everyone in the stadium watched the one-sided match that took place. Normally everyone would assume that a hero student who survived a villain attack would surely have some form of combat experience since they were dealing with an actual villain. But now, right in front of their eyes, the said student is unable to fight back and had her getting beat up by a student with zero combat experience, but also from the support course. Katsuki, who sat at the student booth, watched as his sister got humiliated like that, unable to fight back against quirkless Deku, while her sound of screaming and groaning hit their eardrum, reaching into their booth. Not only he, but the 8 participants of the match, excluding Momo and Izumi, watched in horror as Katsumi, one of the powerhouses in Class A and sister of Katsuki Bakugou, faced a losing battle in the match against the quirkless Deku. 6. Katsumi stood still at the stage with a weak knee, feeling the stings from the blast, and looked up to see Deku standing about 6 feet away from her with a cold expression. "Do you know why you and I got paired up for this tournament?" Izuku asked plainly towards Katsumi. Katsumi pants her breath, looking all exhausted, not replying to his question. "It wasn't because I wanted to beat you one-on-one, or to prove that me being quirkless isn't worthless at all, or even to send a message to the rest of your class of their impending doom. It's because you were nothing but a trial test for me." 8. Katsumi's eyes widen, not seeming to understand what it means. Her match served to be a test. If I can beat you with this strategy, your brother would just be another case of repeated history. After all, you're both nothing but copycat. 3. Her eyes widen in shock to be called a repeated history. She thought that she was the one who set the trap for him, but instead, it was the other way around. She grits her teeth in anger, almost like she could break them from the anger and humiliation she feels right now. Her plan was at the sports festival where she wanted to battle a strong opponent and become the winner, and she wanted to show Deku his place at the bottom. All of it was for naught, and she was instead the inferior one. Deku. What followed after the Ashen Blonde's attempt was so quick that they needed to replay it on the stadium monitor a few times for everyone to see what happened. Almost in the blink of an eye, Izuku propelled himself using his leg booster. In one swift motion, he landed a knee kick to her face with a blinding speed. The impact of the punch was so forceful that the blonde-haired girl was unconscious before she even hit the ground. The crowd immediately went silent once again as they tried to piece together what they had just witnessed. Katsumi Bakugo is unable to continue. The winner of the third match is Izuku Midoriya. Midnight announced after taking a brief second herself to recover. As he looked down at his fallen opponent, he could practically feel the anger that was radiating from the student booth that belonged to his opponent's brother. Plus, just sleep well, Katsumi. By the time you wake up, you'll regret that you ever wake up and wish to just sleep for the rest of your life. The rest of class stared at the stadium as the medical bot helped carry Katsumi to the infirmary after she was left unconscious by Izuku after their match. They quickly headed to the infirmary to check up on Katsumi's condition, including Katsuki as he was headed to the infirmary running towards it. They quickly opened the door to see Katsumi lying on the bed remaining unconscious from the knockout blow made by Izuku with her nose bloodied. Not only that, but her gym clothes also have holes from the blaster made by Izuku and bruises around it. Is she okay? Katsuki asked, looking at his sister's condition. 3. She's fine, Sonny, but she needs rest and is still unconscious. Recovery girl answered. How bad is she? Izumi asked. 1. Just a bruises and a knocked out cold. Nothing too serious. Recovery girl grabbed a blanket and covered her body. There's nothing you could do for now. Just focus on your match. If I remember, your match is about to start too, right, Sonny? She looked in Iida's direction as the bespectacled boy remembered that his match was about to start. So shoo, the girl needs some rest. She pushed the rest of the class away from Katsumi's room, and Iida said his farewell first as he also needed to prepare for his match. They all gathered in the hallway after taking a walk to keep themselves away from the infirmary, away from recovery girl's earshot. Katsuki slammed his fist against the wall in anger. When I get my hands on that Deku, he's dead. Dead. 1. Calm down, bro. Kirishima tried to grab a hold of him, with the help of Sato, Shoji, and Kaminari. Don't tell me to calm down, shitty hair. Deku needs to pay for what he did to my sister. 5. Calm down, Bakugo. Momo argued, looking at him who was snarling in front of her. You expect that he just take the beating without any kind of fight back whatsoever. It's called a competition for a reason. 1. Deku doesn't need to fight back. All he needs is just to accept his fate and be done with it. 3. Are you ego that fragile that you never even seen someone close to you lose? Were you so hellbent to see him losing and be humiliated? Is that it? 1. That waste of space shouldn't be at UA at all. I would have ignored him if he had just stayed in his lane with the other extras, but I'm not letting him get ideas above his station, to let him think he's better than me. I don't care why you or any of the other extras think he's got anything worth listening to. I'm putting a stop to this right now. 13. But Momo stepped in front of Katsuki, blocking his way as the rest of the class watched the confrontation. You've disgraced our class enough with how you've treated Izuku, but I'm drawing the line here. I'm not going to let you hurt anyone, especially not Izuku. 1. Katsuki popped a few explosions in his hands, ready to let himself loose in the hallway. Last warning, ponytail. Get the F out of my way. Katsuki angrily said. Go back to the booth, Bakugo, Momo answered. Katsuki gritted his teeth, glad to finally have an excuse to show this stuck-up extra her place. and swung his hand forward to create an explosion big enough to blast Ponytail into the wall. Before Katsuki could blast Momo though, there was a loud hiss that sounded like a fire extinguisher, and he was enveloped in a cloud of white foam from Momo's open palm. 6 you beach. Bakugo tried to blast at her with his quirk, only for it to sputter and fail. You want to continue to humiliate yourself, fine. But I'll tell you this, Bakugo. You won't get in Izuku's way just because you don't have the stomach to see the word lose floating on top of your head. 5 Momo then said her final word before making his way out of the hallway with Izumi following her before frowning and looking in Katsuki's direction. Katsuki had never been insulted, been disrespected like that before. He was going to tear this beach apart himself. But before he could do that, 𝗕𝗓𝗵𝗲 came to stop him. This time with the help of the rest of the class, as they weren't going to think that Katsuki was going to attack one of their classmates. Izuku was sitting in his waiting room while fixing and cleaning his gear and looking at the scoreboard of the match itself on how the match was going right now. He looked at the screen monitor in his room and saw the match between Iida and 𝗕𝗏𝗵𝗲 was already over, resulting in Iida's victory since he knew that 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗲 was only using the festival to promote her invention to attract investors and support items company. It was safe to say Iida felt humiliated. The match between Momo and 𝗕𝗁𝗁 also ended, resulting in 𝗕𝗁𝗁's victory since he knew that Momo would be bound to lose with the difference in quirk strength alone. The next match is going to be Katsuki versus Kaminari as he puts his gauntlet back in his locker and locks it before heading to the spectator booth, wanting to see how it's going to go down. He could tell that Katsuki's anger must be boiling right now after watching him beat his sister and put her in an unconscious state, and he was just waiting for it to explode at the right time. All he needs to do is just sit idly while watching him go down to the abyss as he planned for him. As he began to clean his invention, he heard the locker room door open. As Izuku turned, he noticed the figure of Shoto Todoroki standing at the entrance. Finally, the 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗏 boy said. I was looking for you. Izuku sighed, standing up from his crouch and turning to the other boy. What? Still feeling bitter about your loss? Shoto stared at Izuku with a cold expression but opened his mouth. You think people would just accept you become a hero after winning this tournament? All they see is nothing but a next-in-line quirkless kid who's about to meet his end. 3 Izuku rolled his eyes. If you are trying to intimidate me, you should probably know by now that isn't going to work. Waste of time and breath if you ask me. 2 You may able to weasel your way during the cavalry race while hiding behind others who are greater and better than you, but when you step into this match, it's an individual for themselves. They'll see you as nothing but a defect of you are. 8 Is there a point to all this, or did you come down here just to whine about the cavalry race? Izuku crossed his arms, glaring at the 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁 boy. Shoto shook his head and continued. My point is that you won't win no matter what tricks you played. I'm gonna crush you when I'm done with the match. I'll be waiting when we fight with each other in the next match. You sound confident that you could win against Izumi. 3 I will be the victor of this tournament, Deku. That's a promise. 1 Is that what this is all about? You going hellbent to win the tournament and prove your manhood to everyone else? Izuku taunts him while openly mocking him. Are you gonna brag to mommy after you won the tournament with half of your strength? 8 Shoto corralled Izuku on the wall, pressing the boy to the back of the locker room. Take that back, Deku. Izuku, however, didn't seem fazed by his threat or the fact that Shoto slammed him at his locker door, with Shoto's right side started to act up, emitting freeze air. What? You can openly mock my father for 10 years without a single care, and yet when the role has been reversed, you can't take an insult about your parents for less than 10 seconds. What an ignorant idiot child you are. 3 Izuku shoved past Shoto and released himself from his grip, but the dual-haired boy still glared a dagger right at Izuku, wanting to make him pay for insulting his mother. You came to my room, throwing insults and degrading words right in my face, and you expect me to just sit here and take it? Well, here's what I think of you. Izuku spat onto the ground at Shoto's feet. 1 The dual-haired boy starts to get riled up and emits the ice part of his quirk, wanting to freeze his entire body in cold for good. Go ahead. You know you want to. Izuku whispered right into his ear. You can explain everything in the teacher booth about why you were caught assaulting a fellow student outside of the tournament arena. I'm sure they would love to hear everything. How you and your daddy were nothing but a reflection. 11 Shoto felt his rage bubbling just under his skin, wanting to be unleashed on the quirkless boy in front of him. At first, he wasn't fazed by his threat, but now he's openly mocking him by spitting at his feet. And the next thing he did, he brought up his parent and mocked them. How dare he, how dare he. Izuku however ignored his silent anger and continued to work on his support item, not looking at Shoto. If you're done venting your words, you know where the door is. And turn off your quirk, why don't you? I'm getting chilled here. Just like that, Shoto looked at how Deku didn't even seem to get scared by this threat. Back in Aldera, the coward would shake in fear just by looking at Deku's eyes. But now the quirkless runts didn't even scare, let alone dare to talk back, and there's nothing he could do about it. Shoto stomped out of the locker room, eyes zeroing in on the light of the arena at the mouth of the tunnel, and shook his head. Izuku hears the door closing and continues cleaning his invention and doing a final check on his equipment while ignoring their argument just now. Nothing but a barked dog. 6 He finished with his equipment and decided to walk into the hallway. Izuku walks into the spectator booth as he watches the match currently taking place between the two students of Class A, with Katsuki dominating the fight. Murmurs and whispers began to be heard as they saw Katsuki crush Kaminari like that. That boy, isn't he the winner of the first and second event? Yeah, his name is Katsuki Bakugo if I remember. He's got a powerful quirk for such a young age. But it seems like he doesn't know how to hold back. Yeah, and the way he used those explosions, it seems erratic and uncontrollable. 12 Izuku stood in silence listening to the mixture of praise and concern from Katsuki match before someone called up to him from the student booth above him. Midoriya. Izuku looked up to see Kendo up there along with what appeared to be her class altogether. Kendo, I didn't see you up there. Izuku waved his hand at her. You wanna sit with us together? Kendo offered. He nodded, taking the offer. He took his way to their booth and Kendo introduced him to the class, except for Setsuna and Tetsu who already knew him. I'm sure you already know, but let me introduce you all. This is Izuku Midoriya from Class H. Hey, nice to meet you, Midoriya. The class greets him. Likewise. Izuku greeted them back before taking his seat next to Tetsu with Kendo's seat below him with Setsuna and Yui. Kaminari is out of bounds. Bakugo is the winner. Midnight was announced from below the stage. They all saw that Kaminari was already out of bounds and looking all battered from the match as the crowd cheered on to their match. Man, that Bakugo dude is freaking crazy if you ask me. Kamakiri snarled looking at him. His savageness is simply unacceptable. Shiozaki looked in shame. Do you think anyone can beat him? Awais asked the question that's on everyone's mind. It's hard to say. If we're talking about raw power alone, I'd say Todoroki is the only one who can compete with him, or maybe Yagi also. Setsuna looked deep in thought looking at the match lineup itself. Let's not count Midoriya over here too. Tetsu wrapped his arm around Izuku's neck. He took down Bakugo's sister, you know. 7, yeah, he's a beast of his own too, you know. Hananuki joked. I'm pretty sure people won't call me a beast, Izuku said. But you took down Katsumi all on your own. That's pure skill if you ask me. Kendo replied, turning her head to her rear. 8 Soon, the intercom informs of the next match between Tetsu and Kirishima. The steel quirk user looks pumped up and ready to fight, but deep down inside, he feels like his match is like battling himself because of his opponent's similarity to him. Guess I'm up. Any advice that you can give me? Tetsu went on to ask. Hit harder, Izuku suggested. The rest of them chuckles and even Tetsu follows before heading out as well. Meanwhile, in the teacher's waiting room, Izumi is having an argument with her own father as he just found out about Izumi not wanting to help disqualify her brother from the match, and even goes far to assist him instead. 3 Izumi, what do you mean you won't help? Toshinori asked, deflated from his all-might form. I meant what I said. I won't help my friends in sabotaging Izuku's chances here. Izumi replied firmly. Izumi, do you realize just how grave your decision is? Your brother is an accomplice of all for one. Having him climb into the hero course would simply be unacceptable. Who knows what he could if he ever entered the course in the first place. 9. What evidence? You already asked Detective 𝗧𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗆 for a private interview, right, and you found none. He's just trying to achieve his dream, that's all. 2. But that's simply unacceptable. A quirkless person can't be a hero. It just can't. Toshinori rejects the idea itself. 13. Is that why you fixed the match for Izuku to fight with Katsumi first? Izumi accused her father. Toshinori turns his head over to her. How did you know about that? 1. I didn't for sure until just now. Izumi's eyes shifted to disappointment, hoping that she was wrong. I find it weird that I was paired up with Shinso and I won easily. And somehow Izuku's match is drowning with strong people on his side. Iida, Katsumi, Shoto and me. You fixed the match, didn't you? 5. We're not talking about this. Toshinori ends the conversation. If you won't help, then just stay out of your friend's way. Did the teacher also in on this? Izumi asked, wondering if even the whole teacher faculty was trying to eliminate her brother's chance. 3. But Toshinori didn't give his answer and just walked away from the room while hiding his scowl from his daughter's face. Soon Izumi followed too and left the room, not wanting to be there any longer as well and trying to get some fresh air. 1. Izumi had made it to the entrance point to the arena. She started to wander the halls, hoping she didn't leave the stadium grounds. That is until she heard a quiet sniffle echo down the hall. Looking to her right, around the corner was Momo herself. Sitting against the wall of a deserted hallway, a hand over her mouth to stifle her sobs, tears flowing down her face, was Momo Yaoyorozu. Hey Momo, you're okay. Izumi walks in slowly to comfort her. Maya, mind if I sit down? Just for a minute. She listened as he barely managed to get that sentence out. I am fine, I'm just frustrated, that's all. Momo replied, wiping the tears in her face. I know what you feel. Shoka is strong after all. And having you lose like that, anyone would be sad. And no, it's just I know that I don't stand a chance with Shoka. But I wanted to win because I wanted to help Izuku by some little. I figured if I could win against Shoka, he had a better chance to win in the next match. Izumi looked over at her, knowing that she understood what she meant. Even Momo seemed to know that Izuku's match seemed to be unbalanced heavily with class a heavy hitter. It's obvious that the placement had been set against him. It's just I don't understand why they were so against him to be a hero. It's like they hate to see him succeed. Everyone seems to be always in his way. Momo lashed out, feeling frustrated with her loss and Izuku's situation. 2. I feel you, but he's trying hard to make his dream. I guess if there's one thing we know, is that he's resilient in his dream. Even if it meant ruining and exposing what we did to him. Why yeah, he already did that with Katsuki before the festival. I saw the article. I read it too. But I still wonder till today, what evidence did he have? Izumi looks in wonder. I don't care at this point, since I made my peace when I ruined his entire childhood. But I just wanna know. It's like a big mystery to me somehow. 3. Momo wiped the tears off from her eyes while sobbing before she collected herself. I'm not sure about it, but I think I have some idea about it. Izumi asked, not seeming to follow. About what? Izuku's trump card. 5. The match between Kirishima and Tetsu came to a conclusion after 15 minutes of gruesome match because of the similarity of their quirk nature. But in the end, Kirishima got the better hand of him and won the match. 2. Now it's Kendo's turn, and she's going up against Uraraka. Truth be told, Izuku finds her match at a bit disadvantage. From what he can tell, both of them were a close quarter type, except Kendo being only a close quarter, but her opponent is a mid-type. With her quirk, she could easily touch Kendo to let herself float and toss her away from the ring, so she needed to find a way to counter that. He offered some advice, but she rejected it, saying that she wanted a fair fight and he respected that. All right everyone, let's begin with today's match. From Class 1B. She's a martial artist in karate and the big sister of Class 1B. Give it up for 𝗧𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗆 Kendo. Present Mike said, and the crowd was cheering at her entry. And from Class 1A. Her smile and bubbly attitude sure warmed the heart of the audience. Let's welcome Ochako Uraraka. Present Mike announces, and the crowd goes wild as she waves her hand to the crowd. For both of them enter the arena, they stare at each other waiting for midnight to start the match. Kendo looked towards her and remembered from what Midoriya told her that she was also one of the students who bullied Izuku back when he was still in school. She looked at how smug she acted while pretending all bubbly is simply pissed her off. Uraraka stared in Kendo's direction before speaking. You're Deku friends, aren't you? His name is Midoriya, Kendo replied shortly. Whatever, he's gonna lose anyway. Iida and Shoto are gonna P&D some sense to him when they are done. 1. You meant like the one I'm gonna do to you right now. 2. Uraraka's face turns into an annoyance seeing how she's not seeing clearly. Now, I want a nice clean fight from both of you, is that understand? Midnight said to both of them. For Uraraka was nodding at her and Kendo was nodding at her as well. Seeing both of them already giving their confirmation, Midnight began to start the match. Now begin. Suddenly Uraraka makes a mad dash toward Kendo trying to touch her to win her match when unexpectedly Kendo enlarges her fist and throws a punch at her to push her out of the ring. She managed to dodge the punch at the very last seconds before her face was met with her fist. 5. Kendo's fist instead slammed over to the floor making the tile crack, displaying the strength level of that punch as Uraraka saw and was glad that it didn't hit her square off. Uraraka tried to get close to her so she could end this fight as quickly as possible and beat Deku's friend while she at it, but Kendo proved to be a difficult opponent that the brunette wouldn't want to acknowledge. Since Kendo is a martial artist, her movement is much more refined and precise, unlike Uraraka's method of trying to land a touch on her with 5 fingers. 1. Hold still, why don't you? Uraraka yelled out. 2. Kendo, who seems to understand that confronting in a close fight will result in her losing the match, decided to try a different angle to win instead. She enlarged both her hands and waved her hand, acting like a fan, and blew a powerful gust of wind against Uraraka's direction. The wind didn't just blow wind but also dust from when Kendo punched the ground, resulting in hitting against Uraraka. 1. Uraraka felt her eyes begin to soar. 1. Kendo took the chance to dash forward and delivered a strong gut punch to Uraraka's abdomen, causing the brunette to hold her vomit and get herself knocked back, falling onto her back. Uraraka tries to get up, but before she can, she hears Midnight call out. Uraraka is out of bounds. Kendo is the winner. 1. Uraraka looks down, seeing the painted border of the arena a few inches away from her feet, and her vision begins to swim, exhaustion and the damage from the fight catching up with her. She feels her vision fade, and her body slacken. 3. The last thing she heard before blacked out was the sound of cheering on the stadium, followed by the crowd chanting Kendo's name over to the victory. Plus, Katsuki watched from the booth as he saw Man Hands get the best out of Pink Cheeks and win. He grits his teeth as he sees that Man Hands moving up to the top 8 just like him. 2. From what he learns, Deku is friends with Man Hands along with the extras from those B classes, and she's the only one that's left from the tournament since 𝗕𝗫𝗁 beat his stupid counterpart. He was gonna go up against Icy Hot's sister and 𝗕𝗫𝗁 will face Man Hands. And he was hoping that 𝗕𝗫𝗁 would lose the match so that he could deal with Deku's beach himself. He wanted to mess with me. I'll return the favor when I ruined his beach. The next match of the day is about to start as Izumi is standing in the hallway preparing for her match against Shoto. She could hear from the stadium the sound of the crowd radiating with excitement. As Izumi walked on stage, she could feel the intensity of the stage. Todoroki stood before her, with his eyes poised on beating her. Both these competitors have been at the top of the festival so far. The announcer yelled, but there's only one room for these greats in the ring. 2. First up, we had the Queen of Destroyer herself. She breaks through all of the contestants' paths with her superpower quirk. Give it up for Izumi Yagi. Present Mike said, and the crowd went wild with that statement. 1. From Class 1A. His personality is as cold as his gaze, yet his smile is capable of warming the heart of the ladies. Give it up for Shoto Todoroki. Present Mike yelled out, and the ladies in the crowd began to chant his name. Both of them now enter the arena as they stare down at each other. One is brimming with excitement, while the other is filled with seriousness as both of them want to win this match so badly. Now, is everyone ready? Midnight asked both of them, and they just nodded to her question. Let the battle of the quarter-finals begin. Immediately, Shoto fired a massive glacier at Izumi, who, at the same time, fired a massive whirlwind to counter. The two attacks clashed, sending ice shards flying in all sorts of directions. The blast sent both competitors flying back. While Izumi was able to catch himself by quickly creating an air cushion behind her, Shoto made an ice wall behind him as well, both saving each other from getting knocked out of the ring. The ice boy immediately launched a second glacier at Izumi, not giving her a chance to breathe. The ice covered her from head to toe, encasing her in a glacier noticeably smaller than the one he used against Sero. Izumi's trapped in ice. Is Shoto gonna win this and make 2-win streak? Present Mike yelled. Suddenly, the ice started to crack as Izumi busted out of her icy prison, surrounded by a telekinesis aura around her, before firing telekinesis blast at Shoto, who made another ice wall, blocking the blast. She break out, folks. She managed to get herself out of there. He then placed his hand on the broken-down ice wall, causing it to expand and grow spikes, shooting straight at Izumi, who took a deep breath and fired back an equally large wind blast. The two attacks collided, creating another huge explosion. Shoto uses his quirk to create an ice barrage, but Izumi generates a shockwave made from punching the air using one for all, thus breaking apart the ice. The shockwave from both of the attacks was very powerful, and it nearly blew both of them to the back. Izumi used her telekinesis to propel herself so that she didn't fall, and Shoto, who got blasted with the shockwave, immediately created an ice shield to cover his back so that he wouldn't get blown to the back and lose because of a ring out. Seeing how powerful Izumi has gotten, Shoto keeps continuing his assault by using his ice to barrage her this time, but Izumi switches back from using one for all to her telekinesis again and creates a psychic barrier to stop the ice. Kirishima said in awe, witnessing the battle unfolding before them. I knew they were strong, but this is on a whole other level. No kidding, both Shoto and Izumi are seemingly even, Ochako said after recovering from her loss. Even. Don't make me laugh. Katsuki said with a salty attitude. Can't you see? All Izumi is doing is blasting the ice that's coming her way, either switching to her telekinesis to one for all. Meanwhile, look at Icy Hot. His right side is covered in ice. He may not look the part, but he's at his limit. Izumi simply had better stamina since she had 2 quirks. Back at the stadium, Izumi could see that his opponent was getting more and more sluggish. The quirk was finally taking its toll on him. Knowing this, he finally spoke up. You're shivering, aren't you, Shoto? Izumi asked. What are you talking about? Shoto asked in confusion. But as much as he tried to feint it, he really was taken by surprise at his sudden question. Your quirk has its limits, doesn't it? We both might be equal in terms of strength, but I have one for all, and ever since then my telekinesis has been enhanced by it. And besides, I'm not letting you move to the next round so you could have your way with Izuku. Seeing that Shoto had begun to get exhausted and a little frustrated that his attack had no effect, Izumi chose to use this chance to attack. She lifted a couple of the ice boulders that scattered around the arena and threw them at him. But Shoto uses his ice to force the two of their attack to collide in the middle, immediately before it could hurt him. Suddenly Shoto launches an ice attack on her, not giving her a chance to breathe or gain any momentum. The ice trapped her from head to toe, thus trapping her there. The ice had encapsulated her entire body covered in ice. Izumi Yagi has got herself trapped again, folks. Is this the end of her? Can she break out just like before? Present Mike announces. One silence rang throughout the stadium once more. Class 1A was looking in horror, and Shoto decided to break the silence. He turned to Midnight, asking her to call off the match, knowing that he already won. Just as she was about to declare the winner, The ice that trapped her began to crack, and all eyes turned back to the glacier that trapped Izumi. Each second the sound of the ice cracking began to hear, and everyone watched the crack that formed on the ice itself. When suddenly, Izumi managed to break through the ice and came out from there. I don't believe it, folks. Izumi Yagi has come out from the ice that's trapped her. I've to say, this battle has turned into the next level, folks. Present Mike yelled, and the entire arena was filled with loud cheers. Soon she launches herself at him with the help of her telekinesis, trying to punch him using one for all. But Shoto was faster as he created an ice wall between them and blocked her assault. But this time around, due to the weak state of the stadium, some of the debris from the ground was getting blown at him too, breaking through his barrier and hitting him directly on the forehead. The ice wall eventually broke and Shoto was sent flying back, nearly falling out of bounds. Izumi thought that switching from long-distance fight to a close distance would be an advantage for her. But Shoto was more talented than she thought, and his quirk was almost as versatile as hers. Wow, both of them are going at each other, Kirishima said in awe. Yeah, none of them giving each other a break, Tsuyu said while watching the scene in front of her. I don't know. I think Todoroki is gonna clinch this. Mina watched from her seat. Whoa, hold on, don't count out Izumi just yet. She's very strong, you know. Mineta claimed. 1. You only said that because you made a bet with Kaminari, right? Tsuyu accused him, and the midget could only look away. Both of them were standing there exhausted as they were staring at each other. They kept staring down since they had overused their quirk, but Izumi still had more fight in her. Give it up, Shoto. I'm not letting you move up, Izumi said while looking all exhausted herself. Stop being persistent, Izumi. He needs to learn that he has no place in this place. Shoto replied in a cold tone that matched his breath. And you get to be the judge of that? Izumi asked in exasperation. He needs to go through all of you to prove himself, is that it? No, just as long as I can be the one who shows it to him, Shoto replied. You're all insane, you, Katsuki, the class, my dad, all of you were crazy. You can't just put yourself to the front like some kind of gatekeeper every time he tried to take a step in his life. 16. We're done talking, Izumi. You're just confused, that's all, you'll see it anyway once we're done with him. Shoto replied, ending their conversation. 3. He began to power up both of his quirks as well. Suddenly both flames and ice began to erupt from his body. Both his ice and flame began to power up at the same time, creating a surge of power in the middle of the arena. 1. Izumi also powered up her right arm with a combination of one for all and her telekinesis into one concentrated point to give her the maximum damage that she needed to win the matches. What this? It looks like both Izumi Yagi and Shoto Todoroki have decided to settle this once and for all. I gotta tell you folks, this has been a heated battle for today's match. Present Mike comments. Seeing this, both Midnight and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 began to worry about the outcome of this match. With that much power on both of them, they could seriously hurt each other very badly, or worse, to the audience as well. This is bad, at this point both of them are done for. Midnight said as she began to rip her clothes off. 𝗵𝗲𝗄, you need to stop this. 2. I'm on it. 𝗵𝗲𝗄 running towards the arena. He began to form a huge wall between the two of them while they began to clash with each other. As they both clashed, a huge explosion began to form in the arena, almost as if someone just detonated a landmine in UA Stadium. The crowd began to blow away, while some of the pro hero that were watching couldn't hold their feet for long as the gust of the wind was too strong. Class 1A couldn't believe their eyes as two powerhouses from their class began to duke it out with each other. Even Katsuki, who watched this, were completely speechless. As Midnight and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 slowly stood up while looking at the arena that was being destroyed in half, she tried to figure out what just happened to both of them after their showdown. Then she saw Todoroki lying down on his back, barely opening his eyes, while Izumi was sent fly away to the back of the arena. Izumi Yagi is out of bounds. The winner is Shoto Todoroki, Midnight announced. 15. And suddenly the crowd goes wild at the spectacular fight that just happened in their eyes. It was amazing to see the two future heroes showing off that kind of power. It's breathtaking, as they just finished watching the contest between two promising heroes. The crowd was cheering at their name, congratulating both of them for the amazing fight they just put up, while the pro was looking amused and couldn't wait to invite them to their agency for their internship, with their eyes already itching to recruit them, especially Endeavor-san. But Izumi didn't share the same enthusiasm as the rest of the crowd, while sobbing quietly, knowing that now her brother is gonna go up against Shoto if he win his match against Iida. She thought she could do it, winning the match and maybe even helping him in some way by taking out the strongest competitor and forfeiting herself in the end, but it was all for naught, as she couldn't do it if she lost. Shoto then walked towards her direction with her back touched against the wall before speaking to her. "You put up a good fight, Izumi, but I can't say the same for your brother in the next match." Won in the end, Izumi could only lower her head with tears dropping from her eyes. At the Class B student booth, Izuku watched the match between Izumi and Shoto, resulting in Shoto's coming out victorious, much to his surprise, to be honest. He thought that Izumi would be the winner with all the swagger he always saw, but it turns out Shoto had the slightest edge in the fight, and that slightest gave Shoto his victory. But a part of him was glad that Shoto won instead, because he could have his match with him. "Tenya Iida and Izuku Midoriya, please make your way to the stage," the speaker in the waiting room announced. The green-haired teen stood up and prepared himself for the match. Kendo stood in follow, wanting to send him good luck. "So you're going up against Iida. Good luck, Midoriya. Do you think you can win? Iida is a tough opponent, you know." Hananuki asked, knowing the speedster is a part of the Iida 10 family group. "I don't think I can." "I know I can," Izuku said with conviction in his tone. He then went over to Monoma's direction before heading to the stage. "Monoma, you brought your phone." "Phone? Yeah, I had it with me." He fished out of his pocket, showing it to the green-haired teen. "One record my match, would you? You won't want to miss this." Izuku smiles before taking his leave, as the blonde-haired kid wonders why. 3. When Iida heard Deku's name come out of the intercom system, he was surprised by it, to say the least. Not only did he think that Deku was not supposed to fight, but even if by some miracle he did, he wouldn't win against him. Being born into the Iida 10 family, he always looked up to his brother and dreamed of following in their footsteps to become a hero, just like his brother Ingenium. His brother always pictured himself as someone that everyone would look up to as a hero, and that's why Iida wanted to have that same admiration. 6. He learned that in order to save people you need to have a quirk to do so. Without it, all you are is nothing but a liability. That's how he saw Deku. Nothing but a liability. That's why he was on board with the plan, because he needs to open Deku's eyes that he can't compete in the same place as he is. Only the heroes can save people. 4. He's the speedster clad in silver armor. Faster than a speeding locomotive. Give it up to Tenya Iida from Class A. Iida made his way to the stage hallway with pride brimming from him while walking to the stage to meet with his opponent, as he already stood waiting for him. Iida is more than ready to show him his place in society when something catches his eye: the lack of armament on the green-haired teen. "What's the meaning of this?" Iida went on to ask, wanting to know, just like Midnight, who's the referee of the match. Izuku arrived at the arena missing his repulsor blaster like the one he used when battling Katsumi, or even the leg booster. But instead, he came carrying his visor and holding a metallic stick in his right hand. Everyone in the student and teacher's booth, and even in the audience seats, is wondering what's he gonna do with a stick against the brother of Ingenium. 3. My blaster and booster were still being charged, so this is all I brought. Izuku shows the stick to the bespectacled boy. "Are you admitting that you can't win against me? 'Cause you just humiliated yourself and this institution with your action right now." Iida sternly replied. Now, are we gonna spend our time chit-chatting, or we're gonna do this?" Izuku looks towards the speedster direction, waiting for it. Iida humorlessly chuckled. "Don't make any excuse when you're losing." 5. Before Midnight is about to start the match, Izuku cuts her off. "And also, tell Katsuki, Bakugou and Shoka Todoroki to get ready straight away. 5 seconds is all it takes." If Midnight wasn't baffled before, she is now. Izuku just openly says that the match is gonna end in a very quick manner. From the body language and facial expression of the speedster, He sees it in resulting of Midoriya's defeat. But from how Izuku looks, she can tell from years of experience that Izuku wasn't bluffing. 5 seconds. To defeat Tenya Iida. One midnight thought, holding her WHP above her head, before rapidly bringing it down. With a loud crack, the match had begun. The match is started. Iida revved up his quirk engine right from the beginning, heating up his engine quirk like a race car before the race started, so that when the signal started, all he needed to do was just let loose and dash forward using his special move. Recipro burst. In the blink of an eye, Iida was across the ring directly in front of Deku, his right leg swinging back ready to kick the green-haired kid out of the bounds. When suddenly his left foot slipped and he fell extremely hard and extremely fast till he was tumbling down to the other side of the wall, almost reaching to where Deku came from. Iida fell into an upside-down position as he stared at the sight of the arena that's above his eyes from his vision while trying to piece together what happened just now while being in a comical situation. Iida is out of bounds. Midoriya is the winner. Midnight announced after taking a brief second herself to recover. 7. The arena was silent. Present Mike had not said a word. The crowd immediately went silent once again as they tried to piece together what they had just witnessed. 1. The class president looked down in shock as he quickly got up to see how he got sent to the other side of the arena in a matter of seconds just like that. He looked to the arena floor where Deku stood and saw a puddle of black liquid on the ground next to him, and also on his feet and the trail where he crashed. 1. He put his finger on his foot and smelled it and his eyes widened. Oil. 8. From the bottom tip of his staff, there's a small canister that pours oil from it with a press of a button at Izuku's thumb while he was smirking coyly at him. He quickly recovered himself and shouted in Midnight's direction demanding a rematch. This can't be allowed, it's cheating. As a fellow student of UA, I demand a rematch. No, can't do. The use of support items is not against the rule for support course students, and Midoriya didn't break a single rule just now. His win is valid. Midnight informed, shaking her head. 5B, but that's cheating, there's no way that dash. His plea falls to deaf ears as he could hear the sound of laughter from his rear. 15. From the 1B booth. It was hard to miss the laughter coming from Monoma, who had his hand on the phone recording the whole event just like Izuku suggested him. 1. 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁, so much for winning the tournament. The copy quirk user said while making no attempt to tone down his cheers. 1. Soon the rest of the audience follows Monoma's lead and begins to laugh at Iida's humiliating defeat just now. The sound of laughter and chuckling echoes through the stadium aiming at him. 9. Ha 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 ha. 1 ha 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 ha. 1 ha 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 ha. 7. Flashes of cameras hurriedly snap over to Iida's falling position, followed by the sound of laughter ringing through the stadium like in a tunnel with echoes. All the audience from adolescents to the elderly who are present are laughing at his misstep. Booths filled with interns and scouts from Hero Agency are also present, and he even sees a couple of pro heroes from the Hero billboard come to watch, who are all trying to stiffen their laughs. Even the news channel camera is aiming its camera at his face as Iida suddenly realizes that this is live on television. Everyone in the country saw this. 7. His friends and family saw the match. His neighborhood, the colleagues of his brother's agency, teachers, and even his brother saw it. 6. With that, Izuku leaves the arena, and the crowd remaining mostly laughs out loud as he does so. Iida lifts himself off of the ground, tears welling in his eyes, and runs to the other side of the arena, as quick as he can into the tunnel, where he breaks down and begins to cry in shame over what happened. 14. But even as he escapes to the tunnel, the sound of the laughter continues to follow deep inside his head. Principal Nizu looked over from the teacher's booth over what happened at the match between Tenya Iida and Izuku Midoriya with a perplexed and amusing look on his face. Whilst it isn't breaking against the rule, the way how he thought outside of the box is simply amazing in his book. 2. But his winning also comes at a heavy price for Tenya Iida's reputation. The kid is breaking off the internet with his 5-second loss and how he lost when he was slipping at the arena, as the rest of the society saw that UA along with the Iida 10 family reputation is cracking. 6. Not to mention that the media is making fun of his falling and it turns into a meme for their amusement, and there's nothing that they could do since the sports festival is a live tournament. 8. Needless to say, 𝗕𝗫𝗁𝗍 is facing an uphill battle for his future. But right now his attention shifted to Izuku Midoriya, as he started to see a different image of the boy, one that Toshinori wasn't drawing for him. The kid proves that he is indeed smart, both in making support items and strategic thinking. But the report from Aldera along with Toshinori's words speaks entirely two different stories. So what's the truth here? 5. Principal. I think it's in our best interest to disqualify Izuku Midoriya from the tournament of his action with young Iida. Toshinori leans into the principal's seat, suggesting the idea. Care to elaborate? Maijima responded, leaning back in his chair, and looking down at the arena from the teacher's booth. Majima, he just humiliated one of the hero students, live on television with his action just now. His action just now is gonna ruin 𝗕𝗫𝗁𝗍's future in the hero industry. Somebody needs to put a stop to this before anyone gets hurt or worse. 3. You seem to be gunning the kid right from the start, Toshinori. Maijima asks accusingly. With how the kid proves to be a threat, I just preparing for the worst, that's all, Toshinori replied. For you or the kid? Majima asked. 1. What's that supposed to be? Toshinori crossed his arms in his chest. You've been accusing Midoriya ever since Bakugo's gauntlet exploded, thinking he sabotaged it, but there's no concrete evidence that he was anywhere near it. Next, I heard that you tried to block the kid from entering the sports festival. And now you're here gunning the kid, trying to sabotage his future to save yours. 1. Because the kid is indeed a saboteur. Forget about this. I'll tell Aizawa and Midnight to disqualify him myself. Toshinori is about to get up and leave before he is being stopped. 2. You will do no such thing. Up until that moment, Nizu had remained silent, simply listening to the conversations, but now he speaks up, moving off of his chair, and approaching the center of the teacher's booth. 1. Principal Nizu, be reasonable. Toshinori turned to the diminutive principal, fanning his arms out towards the rodent. I am only looking out for the best interest of the festival and the safety of our students. For I honestly fail to see the issue, Nizu stated calmly. Midoriya is a student at UA of the support course. He has followed every guideline, every rule, every single constraint he had to adhere to, and he went beyond what anybody could have expected. 5. Toshinori looked at the principal with a perplexed look, wondering why the sudden change of side, and continued to argue. But how he humiliated young Iida is simply unacceptable. Can't you see that it will ruin his life? 7. If I had to disqualify Midoriya, then I have to overhaul the whole final event and start from the beginning. 1. What? Why? Katsumi Bakugo ambushed Midoriya during the first event and nearly damaged his leg. Had the booster in his leg isn't sturdy enough. If she had put more power into it, Izuku Midoriya's leg could have been damaged or worse. We had to amputate him live on television. Not to mention, the entire Todoroki team also crashed against Midoriya's team, who could also eliminate his entire team with a permanent injury to all 4 of them on the team. If I had to eliminate Izuku Midoriya, then we're gonna have to disqualify the entire Todoroki team from the second event and Katsumi Bakugo from the first event, and we're gonna have to restart the entire event with entirely different students that participate, and it wasn't fair for those who already won up to this point and losing their chance. 6. But what makes me wonder is why the perpetrators are all coming from Class A. Is there something you want to tell me, Toshinori? 6. Toshinori looked at the principal, not able to come up with an answer. Truth be told, Nizu seems to be having doubts about this whole matter with Izuku Midoriya, like something is filling up the gap with the case. Like, what's the reason he stabbed Katsuki Bakugo? How come the school has no report of such an event taking place? Who covers the incident from the beginning? And why Izuku Midoriya seems had his sight on Class A right from the beginning? 1. But right now he just gonna continue to watch the match to see how it's gonna go, while at the same time, trying to uncover Midoriya's plan. 1. The class stared down at the arena, in shock at Iida, who was running through the tunnel where he came in. They watched as his tall figure stomped back down to the tunnel, his footsteps echoing out as he approached the mouth of the dark hallway, running away from the sound of laughter aiming at him. Uraraka immediately got up, running to Recovery Girl's office to check on her friend. Everyone else simply stared in shock. Momo looked up at the Jumbotron, seeing the face of Izuku staring back at her. 5 seconds. In 5 seconds Izuku had beaten Iida decisively. What just happened? Kaminari looked at the speaker Mina, who stared down at the arena, her hands covering her mouth. She trembled slightly, the silence of the crowd deafening to the girl. I think Deku just won, Mina said, who was staring at the portrait of the boy in confusion. Pretty easily, actually. Katsuki looks up at the scoreboard, seeing as Deku's name moves forward to the next match. The crowd still laughs at Four Eyes' failure at his match, but his eyes are still glued to the name that's on it. Deku won. That worthless piece of 𝗧𝗵𝗲 is won and moving up to the next match. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw it, but he knew that his victory was nothing but a cheat to him. Deku didn't win with his strength like everyone else. He's using cheat and tricks to get what he wanted. Just like how he tricked him into getting into trouble with Hobo and everyone else. Yet the rest of the audience sees that his victory is to be okay, which baffles him. Deku didn't even win with his quirk because of his lack of quirk, and yet they praised him for it. It's not fair and pathetic. His victory is just the same as his existence. Pathetic. 7 Shouka Todoroki and Katsuki Bakugou. Please make your way to the stage. The speaker announced. He got up from his seat and made his way forward into the arena waiting for his match to get called up. Anger radiating from his face with each step he takes reminds him of the cold look he gets from Deku like he was looking down on him. He entered the stage while looking at 𝗬𝗁𝗏𝗧𝗏's sister as both of them were ready to square off right in the middle. He grits his teeth looking far more pissed off than before as Shouka is looking at him weirdly. But to Katsuki, it's the same look Deku gave him whenever they come across in contact. They all looking down on him. Alright, begin the match. Midnight announced. Right off the bat, Katsuki jumps in front of her and blasts himself forward with a dual-haired girl looking in surprise before she starts the match with a focused version of her special move straight away like her brother did to Sero. 1. Oh, right off the bat. Shouka Todoroki started with the same move as her brother just did. Is no one able to escape this move at all, folks? But Katsuki is more than capable of defending himself by destroying the ice with a flurry of quick explosions. Katsuki tunnels his way out of the mass of ice by using his explosions. The arena is shaking and the ice glacier where Katsuki is trapped also starts to crack before he comes out while gritting his teeth from the frostbite and his usual angry self. That's not gonna be enough to defeat me. UF extras. 3 Shouka runs at him using her ice to slide over, and Katsuki uses an explosion to rush his opponent. Shouka reaches out to try and grab Katsuki, but he evades with an explosion and grabs onto Shouka's left side. Get lost, why don't you? Shouka got thrown out toward the edge of the arena with an explosion. 1 Shouka swiftly recovers by creating and surfing an ice wave to avoid falling out of bounds and skates gaining the attention of the audience. Oh, looks like Shouka Todoroki is still in the game. Shouka took the chance to use her quirk and launched a wave of flame in his direction, but Katsuki propelled himself out of the way and threw a powerful explosion into her direction, but she created an ice wall in between to fend off against the attack. Die! Katsuki screamed as he launched himself across the arena and slammed his ignited fist where Icy Hot Sister stood while using her flame to lower her body temperature. Much to his annoyance, the coward let the flames in her hands fade out before moving out of the attack by forming an ice wall in front of Katsuki. Katsuki swung at her again only for Shouka to block his attack with a wall of ice over and over again. He gave a loud growl as he launched himself at the dual-haired girl again. Stop hiding and fight me! Katsuki shouts over in rage. At the students' booth, everyone watches Katsuki's explosive onslaught against Shouka while wondering what with a sudden explosive rage like that. Is it just me or is Katsuki acting more feral than usual? Kaminari went on to ask. I know. It's like he's pissed or something. Ito added. I don't know. Maybe he's just in a mood, that's all. I meant Shouka isn't weak, you know. He's giving his all, that's all. Kirishima replied looking at the match. 6 At the arena, Katsuki continued to give his all firing one explosion one after the other trying to break through Shouka's ice defense. She struggled to put up with it, seeing her opponent didn't even stop. Katsuki knows of their limit and how much ice and fire they can produce. Die already, the blonde yelled, unleashing a large explosion toward the dual-haired girl as he did so. His opponent quickly made a protective wall with her ice, barely being able to protect herself in time after having to catch up to her breath so many times. Shoka knows when it comes to her brother, she lacks the power to finish her opponent, and focuses more on defense instead of offense, unlike her brother, and Katsuki knows about this. Alright Beach, you wanna play like that? Then try this on for size. The blonde screamed. Katsuki launched himself further into the air, ascending dozens of feet above the arena before redirecting his body to point right at his opponent and shoot forward like a missile. As he neared her, he began launching more explosions to pick up speed, angling his palms to add a rotational effect as he also allowed gravity to impact his descent. Shoka did her best to set up a defense, but it was clear that she was at her limit and was having difficulty. Howitzer impact. The vortex of trapped oxygen that had collected around the blonde fueled the built-up attack as Katsuki unleashed everything he had at the unprepared girl. He gave her a maniacal smirk as he watched her eyes grow wide in shock right before she disappeared into the raging inferno of his explosion. The resulting attack covered more than 2/3 of the arena in a massively bright and deafening explosion that shook the whole stadium, covering the arena in a black smoke that would hide it from view before dissipating. When it was finally visible again, Katsuki stood hunched over, breathing heavily as he eagerly awaited the results of his attack. There was no way that Icy Hot Sister was still standing after that attack, and that meant he was going to face Deku's Beach in the next match if she won her fight. The blonde was practically salivating like a wild dog at the thought. Shoka was seen outside the ring, lying on her side with her back to the blonde, unconscious and with many small burns on her body. Todoroki is out of bounds. Katsuki Bakugo is the winner. Midnight exclaimed. And there you have it folks, Bakugo is moving up to the next match. Present, Mike said from the announcer's box. Katsuki walked out from the arena and made his way into the tunnel before he looked at the Jumbotron hanging on top of his head, looking at the time it takes to beat Icy Hot Sister. 4 minutes 37 seconds. He clicked his tongue in annoyance, thinking to himself that he could have gotten a lot faster had his opponent just stayed down, accepting her loss when facing against him, but he could tell that's a good amount of time for him as well. While he was entering the tunnel, a few of the audience looked toward the blonde boy's victory and saw on the screen that he was moving up to the next match. While some were amazed by his performance, others had a different opinion. Man, that kid doesn't know how to hold back even when against a girl. But she's Endeavor's daughter. There's no way that the kid can hold back. By the way, did you see how he fought? It looks pretty savage if you ask me. And he's almost like doesn't have any control over his quirk. But from how his quirk works, it's gotta cause permanent damage, right? Maybe. I don't know anything about explosives. He must have been a pretty hard-headed kid. Katsuki walks in the hallway looking back to his victory. He was walking towards the long hall as he grinned over his victory, thinking that finally, he proved to himself and those losers back there that he was the best. He continued to walk, but along the way, he could hear a few of the audience in the visitor hallway talking about his match and other topics. Out of curiosity, he decided to lean in and listen to their conversation. Did you see that last match? Can't believe that Endeavor's daughter is lost. She put up a fight, but it's such a shame that Bakugo kid isn't but. For I know right, does he really need to go that hard against her? Sounds like overkill if you ask me. He held his anger behind the wall, listening to how they badmouthing him for his recent victory. What do those extras know about winning anyway? They probably never achieved anything memorable in their pathetic lives anyway. That's why they came into this tournament. To see a winner while none of them can do it. He's about to turn away and leave the hallway, remembering his warning to Aizawa-sensei for his latest outburst when he hears another topic in hand. Hey, you still reading that article? Yeah, the one with the anonymous source mentioning that student. You meant that student K. Katsuki listens to their conversation as it grows even deeper, discussing the article where his initial being mentioned. Can't believe someone like that is on the loose. I know, right? I told my daughter to be careful at school if she saw anyone dangerous. The things that he did, he must have done it recently. That article was recently posted, maybe the so-called student K is still on school. I bet he's in junior high now. No, it's obvious that it's high school grade. They mentioned that he's been doing it for 10 years. My brother is on the police force. He told me that they starting an investigation of the said student, and they gonna hunt this psychopath down. They better. Otherwise how else are we gonna feel safe with that guy on the street? Behind the wall, Katsuki's face grows in frustration and anger upon hearing how Deku's stupid article is being mentioned around. He can't help but feel angry about it. That article has basically turned everything in his life into the SHT mess he's stepping on right now. He can't exactly erase it since it's already gone viral right now. And even if he did, it's not like everyone would forget about it. They would continue talking about it for who knows when. That's why he needs to dominate the sports festival. If he could come victorious in this match, then it would bring their attention away from Deku's article. Everyone would be focused on Katsuki Bakugo and not some stupid 𝗵𝗃 article. They would see it, that Katsuki Bakugo is destined to be number 1. 14. The next match is about to start between 𝗬𝗫𝗁𝗔𝘂𝗁𝗵 versus 𝗧𝗜𝗧𝗏 Kendo as both contestants are ready to duke it out right in the middle of the arena. Both fighters were staring down at each other knowing that it was a contest of brute force since both of them were utilizing their hand-to-hand combat, with Kendo using her martial arts skills and 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵 in his hand-to-hand brawler style. Alright, time for our next match to begin. Present mic announced. From Class A, we had the red-haired hardcore boy with chivalrous spirit, 𝗬𝗫𝗁𝗵𝗃, and his opponent, she's a hero student with black belt in karate, the big sister of Class B, Izuku Kendo. It was hard for Kendo to miss the exceptionally loud howling coming from the 1B section of the stadium. Admittedly, it felt good having her classmates cheering her on. The orange-haired teen stood up and shook the nervousness out of her body. She was ready and she was confident that she would win this match. Looking at her opponent, she recognized him from the second event where he joined with Bakugo, and knowing how the red-haired kid always stuck to Bakugo close at all times, she knew that he must have been one of them who hurt Midoriya. 𝗕𝗫𝗁𝗵𝗃 stared at his opponent ready for the match and also recognized her whenever he saw Deku hanging out with her. Kendo, let's have a manly match. 8. Sorry 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵𝗃, but I don't see a man anywhere other than a coward or a bully, Kendo replied looking at the red-haired in the eye. 5. 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵 turned to look at her directly before scowling. You just don't get what we're doing. I think I know what you were doing. Kendo took her stance not wanting to have another conversation. Let the last match of the second round begin. Midnight announced with a wave of her WHP. Right off the bat, Kendo charged ahead while enlarging her fist toward 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵's direction in a swift manner. The hardened quirk user barely had any time to use his quirk and took a defensive stance. Having her right fist didn't connect to her opponent, she switched up to her left but the hardened boy simply switched up his defense from one side to another. Right from the start, Kendo from Class B is launching a barrage of attack against 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵. But 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵 didn't budge in or from the looks of it, 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵 didn't take any damage at all. At the Class B booth, the rest of the class watched as their class president battled in a one-sided match since none of her attacks could penetrate 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵's defense. Damn it, she's in a tough spot. Setsuna cursed looking at the match that was going on. What do you mean? Shiozaki looks to her fellow green-haired girl. Right from the match paired up, Kendo is facing some tough battle, with either 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵 or Tetsu that one. Both of their quirks are on a defensive state, but 𝗕𝗁𝗁𝗵's defense is more ragged covered with hard and sharp edges all around unlike Tetsu's smooth layered of steel. So each punch she delivered, she only hurting herself. Aizawa looked in surprise along with the rest of the class. Setsuna nodded. Yeah, but why does she keep punching? That's the question. She's testing on him. The class turned to Izuku who just joined their booth, with his hand in his pocket. Midoriya. Kendo didn't just randomly throw her punch, she's looking for a gap that she can exploit. But isn't that pointless? While Kendo studies martial arts, it won't work against someone as sturdy as Kirishima. True. But that depends on the martial art itself. Izuku replied, which left the class wondering what it meant. Meanwhile, Kendo continued to rapidly punch Kirishima, but the red-haired boy just took the hit and let her continue. His plan is just to wait for her to run out of stamina and win the match in one attack, just like how Bakugou suggested him. He knew that his hardening quirk was far suited to go up against her, and there was no way that she could break against him. But most of all, he wanted to see the look of desperation on Deku's face when he saw his friends get beaten up and fighting a losing battle. Kendo then took a step back and retreated with bruises all over her hand from punching him. It's no use, you're simply a bad matchup against me. Kirishima grins over to Kendo, knowing her attack can't do damage. Well, Kendo shakes her head. I just looking for something, that's all. But I just find it, that's all. What are you talking about? Kendo then took a stance on a stage right in front of Kirishima with the red-haired, not knowing what she was planning on, thinking that her fist couldn't penetrate his hardening, but decided to give her a free shot before he wrapped this up. She then delivered a straight punch, shot from the waist towards Kirishima. The blow was so powerful that Kirishima had to hold his mouth from vomiting. The rest of the audience looked in shock, seeing this was the first time Kirishima had taken damage, let alone something this fatal. It's different if it's Kyokushin karate. Izuku looked down below the stage with pride in his eyes. Kyokushin? Hananuki went on to ask, taking the question out of everyone's mind. Kirishima is done, Izuku claimed. At first, Kirishima felt nothing more than the familiar dull thump of an impact as her fist met his hardened chest. But then he feels it. Pain beyond anything he had ever felt. Kirishima immediately gasps out, acknowledging a new snapping sound in his chest. He stumbles back, falling onto the ground, trying and failing to catch his breath. Kirishima looked down at his chest, immediately noticing that on the right side of his chest, there was severe cracking in his hardened skin. At the epicenter of the cracking was a circular dent, bending inward. He knew immediately the impact had broken a few ribs, and he let go of his quirk, letting himself catch his breath, though noticing an acute stinging of his broken ribs as his lung expanded, leading to them digging into his bruised flesh. Kirishima took a deep, ragged breath, not being able to pay attention to the thumping of footsteps approaching him until the sun was blotted out by the figure standing above him. He immediately noticed the silence of the crowd but was too busy staring up at his opponent, in bewilderment. Kirishima dropped himself to the ground before hearing the word from Midnight Sensei. Kirishima is out cold. Itsuka Kendo is the winner. That was the last thing Kirishima heard before the darkness covered his vision in black. Katsuki stared at the stadium with a bewildered look in his eyes, watching 𝗕𝗓𝗄 just lose to Deku's beach like that. He knew that 𝗕𝗓𝗄 is nothing compared to him. His quirk is nothing more but a sturdy punching bag in his eyes, but deep down he knew just how tough 𝗕𝗓𝗄 is, and he was not the type that could lose to some weakling like Man Hands in the first place. She's a weakling from his point of view. A beach with a weak quirk. That's why she was put in a B-listed class, unlike him who's in the A-listed class. The UA Sports Festival always ended in one way and one way only. Katsuki grinned, looking up at the board at his next target. Now, he could show what he was capable of when he wasn't being dragged down by all the useless extras around him. Now he could win this and prove that he was the next #1 hero. He looked over at Deku again, his grin becoming malicious. And he could finally show that freak his place. Izuku is staring at the screen where the order of the match is about to take place. He looked at his name right next to Shoto, showing that their match was about to take place in less than 10 minutes. He clutches his hand tightly, looking at the match that's about to take place. Out in anger and excitement. He's been wanting to take the match right from the start. Unlike before, this match is a completely different level than the previous two. Katsumi is someone he understood quite well since her quirk is based on her brother's similar nature, and he understood full well how to counteract the quirk with his invention. Iida as well as someone he understood quite well since he's been watching his brother on patrol on television and observing his quirk is the same, so he had his way to deal with him. But Shoto is a different animal. Being born as the number 2 hero prodigal son, Shoto possessed both attributes of fire and ice as his quirk and proven to be the strongest when it comes to raw quirk power. As far as he is concerned, if he's talking about the quirk alone, it almost has zero weakness since both quirks complement each other in sync. But Izuku knows that it takes more than a quirk to become strong, and he's living proof of that. Grabbing his gauntlet, he walks into the hallway headed to where his match is about to take place. Whilst walking down the hallway, he walked past against the flame hero, Endeavor, stopping him in his tracks. Oi. Izuku was shocked to see the number 2 hero and Shoto's father, Endeavor, leaning against the wall down the right of the hall. His height and glare alone were intimidating enough for him, but the flames made it worse. It also didn't help him know Endeavor's domestic past. "It's Midoriya, right?" Endeavor asked, his brow raised. "I watch your match just now. Your quirk, you don't have one." "So I've been told," Izuku almost tiredly spoke, getting a little tired of hearing that phrase. "You rely on gadgets and toys to reach this far, but compared to my son, you pose no threat against him. But try to push his limits, give him the fight of his life, and get him to use his flames. Do you understand?" Izuku didn't give his answer and just stood still where he came from, and Endeavor walked by having his message already being delivered. "Oh, I will, all right." This time, it was Endeavor who held his track and looked at the boy in front of him. His eyes looked curious, wondering what was with the tone. It somehow had another meaning to it. "Your son, he would be showing his all right, and I would be there, to bring him down to his knee when he's at his best, at the peak where you created him. You think you had what it takes to defeat my son?" Endeavor asked skeptically. "To defeat? You misunderstood Endeavor," Izuku said, pausing for a moment. "I'm not gonna defeat him, I'm gonna break him." For out in anger, Endeavor was already nose to nose with Izuku in an instant. The mix of rage and heat coming from the number 2 hero was singeing Izuku's hair off. But Izuku stared down at him like a tiger looking at a lion in a wild jungle, not backing down with his words. "Watch yourself, brat. That mouth of yours won't help you in your fight," the walking flamethrower grunted out. "Oh, I beg to differ, you should stay and watch the match." Izuku relayed his message to the number 2 hero as he began to walk past away from him. "Your son might need a shoulder to lean on once this match is over." 12. Shoto sat on the bench in the waiting room, staring at the closed door. He didn't move a muscle, instead simply staring at nothing, and trying to quell his growing anger. The heterochromatic boy shook his head, focusing his mind on his next fight. It wouldn't do to get distracted right now, not when he needed to keep his attention on his opponent. He still looked at the results of the second event where he almost lost to Deku's group, and deep inside his mind, he couldn't forget the humiliation he was feeling at that time. To know that he almost lost to the likes of him is simply unexplainable. He's more powerful than him, has better influence than him, is more well-known than him, and he's got the reputation to back it up to accomplish his dream to be a hero. 7 And yet for some reason, Deku is still trying to cling his way up, trying to compete with him like he's on the same level as he is now. Deku, in every fight he has been in so far, has dominated. From the absolute flooring he gave Katsumi to the 5-second quick victory he gave to Iida, Deku had won every fight without giving an inch. Shoto noted that while his invention is impressive, Deku won't be able to climb further while using toys in his opinion. 6. Will the competitors please take to the field? One present mixed blaring voice sounded off, and Shoto took a deep breath, before standing and walking out of the waiting room, turning to face the glow of the tunnel. Shoto walked confidently out, entering the light of the arena to the cheers of the crowd. Taking his place, he waits for his opponent to appear opposite him. Sure enough, the footsteps began to echo out of the opposite tunnel, and Shoto saw Deku standing in the starting square, opposite him, and Shoto took a ready stance. Izuku takes a similar stance, lowering his form and bending his knees. The dual-haired kid took a look at the opponent in front of him, and he was wearing the gauntlet and boot he used when fighting Katsumi. At least he saw that he was showing some seriousness, unlike when battling against Iida. 2. I suggested that you give up right now. I don't want to be judged by the crowd for putting a quirkless kid into the hospital. Shoto replied in a cold tone. Izuku scoffs, keeping his composure. You think that you're gonna win? I'm not delusional such as you. I know my place in this tournament. Shoto claimed. To his surprise, Izuku let out a small chuckle. We'll see. At the students' booth of Class A, Izumi sits with Momo together looking at the match that's about to take place, with Izuku fighting against Shoto on their side, alone away from others at the back end. From their standing point, Shoto should be the clear winner of the match, but somehow at the back of their mind, Izuku would pull through and win it. For, you think he's gonna win? Momo went on to ask. Shoto is the obvious favorite right now. But I think that Izuku is gonna surprise us somehow. Can tell. At their seat, Kirishima, Kaminari, Sato, Mineta, and Mina were running forward to their booth looking all exhausted and trying to catch their breath. Did you find anything? Uraraka asked the group. No, nada. Kaminari shakes his head to the side. Katsuki spats. Sato took his seat next to Sero. If he has it, then he must have carried it to the stadium with him. Or he took it to safekeeping, Kirishima added. What are you guys talking about? Izumi asked, not knowing what they were talking about. Evidence that Deku is talking about. Bakugou told us that he had something against us. We figure he must have kept it in his locker. Kirishima told her. You went to his locker. Momo looked aghast at their action. For so he kept it close to him then. At least 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗵𝗆 until the evidence is destroyed. Katsuki concluded, biting his fingertip in frustration. 3. But won't it be too risky? In case it got damaged during the tournament. Maybe he gave it to his friends. Like Kendo perhaps. No, it's gotta be to 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗵. The class silently discussed it, thinking who or where would he keep this evidence that he was talking about. They need to find it first before something bad is gonna happen that could jeopardize their future. You won't find it. They all turned their attention to Momo, who just spoke those words. What do you mean? You won't find it. Momo said. Izuku didn't keep the evidence at his locker or give it for safekeeping to anyone. He always held it close to him. 2. So it's with him then. Then 𝗕𝗏𝗃 can just F him and the evidence at the same time. Momo scoffs. It won't matter. Because his evidence is indestructible. 1. Indestructible. What does that mean? 1. You just have to see it yourself then. 6. Midnight raised her WHP, and with a crack the match had begun. The semi-final of today's match between Shoto Todoroki vs Izuku Midoriya is starting now. And, in a similar fashion to Shoto's other matches, it opened with a massive glacier rocketing out towards Izuku. Shoto immediately feels a shallow drop in his body temperature, but he puts more power into it, trying to show how capable he is, even without his father's fire. After a few moments the glacier was complete, and Midnight sighed, ready to call the match, but then they heard it. A shallow but sharp voice. Bang! Then the glacier where Izuku is supposed to be began to crack. Spiderweb cracks emanated from a point of origin, and Shoto could do nothing but stare in shock as the glacier cracked further and further, until the entire structure shattered, and there, standing in a circle of ice fragments, Izuku, rolling his shoulders and notably unfrozen. Get ready, Shoto, because today is the day you'll realize how little you were in this world. Izuku took a step forward, standing on the ice. He got out, folks. Present Mike shouted with great enthusiasm. Ladies and gentlemen, Izuku Midoriya just got himself out from that huge chunk of ice completely unharmed. Is there anything that Izuku Midoriya can't do at this stage of game? Shoto was briefly stunned by the display, staring at his opponent as the particles of ice fell around him. Unfortunately for the dual-haired boy, Izuku capitalized on his visible shock, raising his left arm, and hitting Todoroki with a repulsor blast. Shoto is squarely in the chest, knocking him down and throwing him slightly back, though the scarred boy manages to gather himself enough to catch himself before he sails out of the arena. Shoto's gaze settled on his opponent in just enough time to see him fire another blast at him, and he dodged to the side, sending another wave of ice at the quirkless boy. He watches as the quirkless kid in front of him focuses his blaster into one point and fires it straight to the ice, and the glacier shatters in its infancy. Shoto, however, does not relent and sends another glacier right after. He won't be able to do the same thing as before it's over. Shoto feels his body shivering slightly, but his senses are still sharp. 6, however, he watches as his opponent reaches to his waist for a small canister, puts the canister into his gauntlet, and fires it. The blast, once again, stalls his glacier before it has the chance to make its way to Deku, and the ice is losing its strength when headed towards Deku. "Is that all you can do?" Izuku challenged him, asking for more. Shoto then fires another set of glaciers towards Deku's direction, hoping that it would finally put the quirkless freak in his place and encase him in ice for his arrogance, but once again his glacier gets destroyed by his blaster, and not before it could make its way to entrap him. Shoto stumbled back, but when he raised himself he was met with an open palm in front of his face, the center of the hand glowing with a blue light. This was all the warning he received before a blast of energy hit Shoto directly in the chest, causing him to fly backward, his brain bouncing around in his skull. Shoto hits the ground but quickly rolls to the side. Shoto quickly rose to his feet, sending a wave of ice at Deku, hoping to catch the boy off guard, but somehow the quirkless boy destroyed the ice with ease and barely with any effort, using the blaster on his palm. Shoto grits his teeth, frustration settling in. And that frustration is only amplified as the quirkless kid extends his arms wide as if gesturing to the world around them. "You're not even gonna try and use your fire?" Izuku yelled out with his eyes dilated. "Shoto, where's your famous flame you inherited from Endeavor, huh? Show me some heat." Shoto roared out with rage, sending a wave of ice to cover the ground. The ice began to creep up Izuku's legs and boots, but with a hiss, he watched as his boot began to heat up and fly him away. Izuku lifted his right arm, firing his blaster over in Shoto's direction while he was hovering in the air, but the dual-haired kid used his ice to block against the attack, but not long before the ice was losing its strength and shattering away. What's going on? How does Shoto seem to be the one in trouble? It doesn't make any sense. Shoto is freaking strong. To be losing like this. Too, they all seem to be lost in words, not understanding how this is happening to begin with. "It's not just that, look at the arena," Izumi replied, crossing her hand to her chest. And just as Izumi explains, the arena is covered in one-sided filled with ice from Shoto's quirk from where Shoto is standing, and the other is dry with only small chunks of ice in where Izuku is standing. It's something weird for the eyes of the audience, and even for the teachers, as they don't know what is happening. One side of the arena is covered in ice. The other is completely dry as a desert. Oh, Shoto Todoroki seems to be in trouble right now. But what's with the situation on the field in one-sided here, folks? Aizawa stared from the booth in confusion just as his friend next to him. The field itself is bizarre. There's only one side covered in ice while the other is filled with it. Todoroki ice should be able to cover the whole arena. But somehow Midoriya is free from ice. One at the teacher's booth. The rest of the teachers are also left in question, as none of them can explain this phenomenon that's taking place in the stadium. "Principal, how is this happening? How come Todoroki's ice isn't making its way towards Midoriya?" Vlad King asked the question. They all knew just how powerful Todoroki was when it came to quirk strength, but they didn't expect that Todoroki was struggling like this in the first place. "I have no idea as well, Ken," Nizu admitted while trying to come up with some explanation for this weird activity that was on the scene. "There has to be a trick. Young Midoriya must have cheated or done something to Todoroki's quirk," Toshinori claimed. "9, and how did he do that?" Power Loader chimes in. "I don't know, but he must have done something," Toshinori replied, looking somehow enraged by the situation. "We can't just disqualify someone based on a hunch, but I have to admit that Midoriya has done something to Todoroki," Nizu replied, not taking his eyes off the match. The rest of the staff also shared the same mind as the audience, and even the students who were watching wondering with one simple question rings their brain like an alarm bell. What did Midoriya do to Todoroki? 𝗵𝗃 breath is starting to hyperventilate with the fact that he's starting to get hypothermia from overusing his ice, but he still refuses to use his fire with the situation with his father yet right now. The quirkless runt he saw as inferior is proving to be the only obstacle to reach for the final. What's the matter, Shoto? Izuku asked, though Shoto noted the taunting tone. You getting cold? 𝗵𝗃 starts to shiver from the cold he experienced from overusing his quirk, but also from the fact that he felt whenever he went on to train with his father for a one-on-one sparring session when he was little. Fear for Shoto starts to shake pretty badly right now, looking at the towering figure of Deku, who doesn't seem to be affected by his ice at all, and starts to look at the quirkless freak for some sort of explanation. Deku himself didn't wear any protective suit other than the UA gym uniform he's wearing now. There's only the gauntlet he's wearing and the shoes to help him fly with only one pair because Katsumi has destroyed one during the first event. The only thing left is just the visor he's wearing, but that can't protect him from the cold at all. There has to be a trick to it. An explanation as to why his ice can't make it towards Deku and is able to get shattered like that. Shoto tried to move, but the extreme cold had paralyzed him. His body had stopped shivering, and he felt his skin growing dangerously numb. He couldn't even look up. His vision had clouded and his breathing had grown shallow. This was what the cold truly felt like. I can't lose here. Shoto tries to will his body to release another blast of cold, but even the thought of worsening his condition almost causes him to throw up. His body began to feel dangerously warm, the extreme cold giving way to an almost pleasant numbness. To a dangerous sign that frostbite was inching closer and closer to irreparable. I can't move, but this can't be the end. He hears the uneven slamming of feet as his opponent limps towards him, ever closer to the dual-haired boy's defeat. Shoto sees his situation and knows it's hopeless. My ice isn't enough. Shoto feels his resolve crumble under the sheer weight of the cold, and then feels his left side begin to warm, as small bursts of fire erupt from his left side. Fine Deku, you forced my hand now. I'll burn you to a crisp. Shoto is confused by the feeling of freedom that the flames dancing across his body give him. He feels the fire emanate from his chest, filling his previously frostbitten heart with a nearly forgotten warmth of the inferno within. However, his attention was focused solely on the quirkless boy in front of him, who seemed to be waiting for him. Izuku smiles in a challenging way, almost like waiting for the dual-haired boy to use his fire right away. Like he's begging him to hit him with the stream of fire headed his way. You want to get burned? Then go ahead. Shoto grits his teeth with the full intention of wiping the smirk off his face. Shoto capitalized on this by reaching his left hand outward, launching a massive stream of fire forward toward Izuku's direction. Izuku seemed to snap out of it and crossed his hand in front of his face in an X manner, seeing no option but to face the blaze head-on. Izuku Midoriya has taken the full hit on the flames. Todoroki just unleash a wave of fire towards him. Ladies and gentlemen, is Izuku Midoriya gonna make it? When the fire met the quirkless boy, at first he felt the blaze but felt mostly unharmed. Then, he felt an incredible burning on his left shoulder, followed by blistering pain rushing down his chest. Finally, after the fire had died, the rest of the audience could see Izuku stand with second-degree burns all over his body from hand to his entire arm. But something caught their eyes when the charred clothes of him are showing his body. One of the crowd yelped in shock. His back is covered in many variations of wounds, from bruises to stabbing wounds, to burn marks, ice burns, and even something resembling a claw mark. Not just to his back but his front also covered in the same wound as the one in his back but much worse. But there's one wound that stands out above everything else. A starburst wound is located in his chest, specifically where his heart is located along with a miniature burn scar at his chest area. 11 As the shocking news was revealed on the screen, an audible gasp rippled through the stunned audience. At the same time, the audience pulled out their phones, and the news reporter aimed their cameras toward where Izuku's body was, and even the jumbotron in the stadium was covering the graphic image of his wound. 6 at the Class A booth. It was anything but surprising and more of a chilling sensation as everyone got a striking cold shoulder with a fearful expression on their face as they looked at the Deku's back colored with many wounds from their past action. 3 Katsuki stared with wide eyes. His pupils dilated in fear while sitting at his seat, feeling like someone just placed a block of ice into his back, finally understanding what Deku was talking about. 2 He's not secretly kept pieces of evidence against him. He is the evidence. 6 Shoto, who stood in the arena, stared with wide eyes, realizing what he'd done just now, staring at the wounded body of the quirkless freak that he put in his place multiple times over the last 10 years. And now, there it was like a painting in a studio. Those wounds they inflicted are left for them to see. 1 Water started to drip from the top of his head, and he stared at the sky, clouded, signing that it was about to rain heavily for no apparent reason. 2 Sorry for the sudden rain, folks. We'll close the top of the dome straight away. Just as signaled, the dome starts to rotate and close down, covering the whole stadium from rain and lightning just in case. But something caught their attention in the arena where Izuku is standing as something is flickering in a bright blue color while the dome is closing. Wait, what's that on the arena? One of the audience points to the arena. As the dome closes from the top, it creates a shadow that covers the whole arena, and something is flickering in the arena just like the audience is talking. It's covering the side of the arena where Izuku is standing like fire, but instead of bright red-orange like Shoto, this one it's in blue-white flame. The arena. The whole arena is covered in blue flame in all of the sudden. It's ethanol flame. Aizawa spoke in realization. That's why Todoroki ice can't touch the part of Midoriya side. With those flickering around, his ice is instantly nullified. And Todoroki dousing the whole arena in flame only ignites the ethanol even further. But how come we didn't see it before? Ethanol flame burns visible on the naked eye. But when in the dark, then it started to visible. Shoto looked around feeling like he was scared, like getting a series of déjà vu when he was training in his father's dojo, staring at the flame hero in fear over the last 10 years like he's something that resembles more of a monster instead of a hero everyone acknowledges. Suddenly the sound of rustling came from his front, followed by the footstep sound of Deku walking forward, with each step feeling like an earthquake inside of his mindset. 2G Get away from me. Shoto roared out in fear, sending a wave of ice towards him, but the flame heat was so intense that it burned right through his ice and melted it, turning it into a puddle of water, and it only made the fire spread further than before. 7 Get up, Shoto. Get up and fight. Shoto shrieked in fear with each step his opponent made toward him. The blue flame is lining up in his way, forming a pathway to his direction as Shoto sees the image of Deku is beginning to look just like his father. Get away from me, you freak. Shoto shouted in desperation while crawling backward away from him. For his face is showing a fearful expression, trying to get himself away and making a run. The flame highlighted the scars all over his body nicely for him to see, and paired with a judgmental look from the whole arena, wondering who was responsible for it. I didn't raise a failure, Shoto. You'll be the one who'll defeat All Might. He didn't say it, but he knew that it was them who were responsible for it. He also took part in it, but the judgmental look in their eyes shows if Shoto indeed had something to do with it, that he alone had a hand in it. Leave me alone, please. Please stop, I'm begging you. 3 All of a sudden, Shoto felt like he was in the training dojo with his father, like he was still 5 years old, with hatred and a cold look, followed by fire surrounding him like when he was practicing. 1 Your mother gave birth to you for a reason. You're my masterpiece, Shoto. You'll be the one who surpasses All Might. He felt himself trapped in that training room all over again, enduring the abuse and harsh training that his father delivered. Training in full hours non-stop while panting his breath and draining his energy, all to fulfill his empty ambition and hand its responsibility to his offspring. Shoto began to beg on his knee while crying with his head touching the concrete floor, seeing Deku looking more similar to his father, remembering the abuse he got during training all those years, and he took out his frustration to Deku at the time. I am sorry, I'm so sorry, please, I beg you, I am sorry. 3 Shoto continued to lower his head, begging for him to be spared at the very least. But Izuku continued to close into him in silence, as Shoto grew even more shaking than before. "I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry, please don't hurt me." Izuku looks down from where he is standing in cold gaze as Shoto is turned into a sniffle mess while begging for him, saying sorry all over again, not knowing if it was because Shoto saw him as himself or Endeavor. 1. Please, I give up, I surrender, so please, I'm sorry, D, don't hurt me, please. 2. As soon as those words left Shoto's mouth, no one in the arena spoke at all, either mesmerized by the dancing blue flame on the arena, or the fact that Izuku Midoriya just defeated Endeavor's son, or Shoto Todoroki was turning into a sobbing mess resembling a 4-year-old. 3. Endeavor, who's decided to watch his son match per the suggestion of Izuku, watches as his masterpiece, the weapon he created to surpass all might, has now been broken into the unfixable mess he is right now. Normally he would be gritting his teeth in rage for his loss, or shouting in rage telling him to get up and fight, or even lashing out at the situation his masterpiece is in now for embarrassing him. But this time he didn't feel any anger at all, but stunned. Stunned out of shock at seeing his son broken by crying and looking all broken. His son, who's always acting all cold and distant, harboring a silent hatred towards him, is now all crying while muttering and begging to stop, remembering his training days. There was a moment where everything went silent before Midnight called out, Shoto Todoroki is surrender. Izuku Midoriya is the winner. Katsuki looked at the result of the match that's just taken place between Deku and 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗵. He was sitting alone in his own row, unlike the rest of the extras who gathered together and flocked like birds in a tree. 3. Their eyes were looking at the Jumbotron screen hanging on top of the stadium with the result of the semi-final match that takes place just now. Izuku Midoriya won, Deku won. Against 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗵. He didn't win in his book. 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗵 is just turning into a sobbing mess and handed him the victory. 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗵 is just a weakling in his eyes. 5. And weakling didn't deserve sympathy, his sympathy. 1. But right now, the fact that Deku is moving to the finals is the least of his worry, knowing how 𝗕𝗶𝗁𝗁 he's getting himself right now with 𝗬𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗵 lost just now. Turns out Deku did have evidence that could be used against him and every F extra in his class, and it's been sitting all day, walking around at his back like some tattoo. Now Ponytail's statement makes sense. Whatever evidence Deku had is indestructible. It's because he was the evidence. Evidence can be planted or faked. Testimony can also be falsified. And even eyewitnesses can be misleading. But scar evidence is indisputable. Especially a blast scar. A blast scar that looks like an explosion taking place in his chest where he blasted him back in the day. Everyone would like to know where that came from, and only a handful of people would have an idea of where that came from. One testimony from the victim alone is gonna raise some questions, and even showing his back like some kind of flag is more than enough to poke the nose of every goddamn reporter and newsletter in Japan. Hell, even those bloggers would want to get a piece of the news. He looked at the article that Deku had posted before mentioning his past actions, highlighted his name in the media, and saw the number of readers has skyrocketed than the last time he saw before the sports festival. 829K readers. 3. It's 3 times more than he last checked this morning. In just a few minutes, those extras outside began to read the article, and it's not being buried, as All Might said to him. Now they all knew that Deku was indeed the student that's mentioned, or they had some idea about it. But it's still gonna raise some questions. Even right now, news reporters are coming towards him looking for some explanation, breaking through against the barrier and running against the security. Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. Is it true that you were the student that's being mentioned in the article posted by the anonymous publisher that went viral in the last couple of weeks? Any intel on student K that you could share with us? Did student K responsible for the injury in your body? Not just on the scar on your chest but also on your entire body, front and back. 1. Did you suffer from any internal bleeding or organ malfunction from the blast on your chest till these recent days? 3. Is student K the one who's responsible for the injury on your body? 1. We ran a background check on your school record and it says that you went to a school called 𝗎𝙪𝙢 from elementary to junior high. Is student K also your classmate from 𝗎𝙪𝙢? 1. Midoriya. Any comment on who might be the identity of the student K that's mentioned in the article? The reporters kept hounding Deku over until he was walking towards the hallway not giving any comment or speaking up, and the security team prevented them from hounding Deku's way and asking for his statement, but from the looks of the situation, he could tell that it's only the matter of time before everything crumbling down. Before his future is ruined because of 𝗕𝗂𝗁𝗍𝗵𝗆. Is that the evidence he was talking about? Kirishima whispered, looking at Katsuki sitting 2 rows behind him. His voice is shaken just like the rest of the class. However, Bakugo remains in pensive thought, not delivering any sort of response. His mouth is agape, unable to come up with a respond. Yes, it was. Instead, it was Momo who delivered the answer. That's why you can't find it no matter what. It's been with him all this time. His scars, those wounds all over him, that's his evidence. And you knew about this. Both of you. Kirishima turns to Momo and Izumi's seats, looking at the 2 of them. The rest of the class turns their head and eyes to the 2 girls who knew about it. One Izumi sighed while staring at her class. I just found out about it, but Momo seems to have some idea about it. Why didn't you tell us about it? We could have warned my brother to not use his flame and burn his clothes like that. Now look what happened, everyone saw that on the news. Shoka argued, not liking the idea that their action might get exposed. 3, and what's the point of that? One way or another he's gonna show it. Izumi replied, showing no hesitation in her words. Even if Shoto didn't use his left side, I'm sure that he had another way to expose it. 2, and you're okay with this. Both of your dreams get robbed just like that. Kaminari looks in panic, wondering how could Izumi and Momo just be okay with all of this. 2, we already made our peace with it. If he wants to do it, then we won't intervene. We deserved it. Omo states. 5, Katsuki then gets up and walks over to Momo's direction, looking like an enraged madman before grabbing her collar shirt and slamming her at her seat while he glares with a murderous look in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me? 1, however, Momo didn't show the slightest fear in her eyes, looking at the ashen blonde kid. And why should I? You're not my father, let alone my boss. I don't have any obligation to do so. Slap 4 F beach. Katsuki slaps Momo's right cheek, causing everyone to get up and put a stop to Katsuki straight away. Katsuki, are you out of your mind? Izumi, who's the closest in the group, shoved Katsuki out of Momo's reach as the rest of the class also followed, and pulling Katsuki out of Momo's seat. Bro, come on, not cool. Kirishima came in between, trying to put a stop to him. 2, you knew about it and you didn't tell me. Are you out of your mind, you beach? Katsuki half shouted at Momo, who was being looked at by 𝗓𝗪 and Uraraka. Calm down, why don't you? Sero tries to put a stop to Katsuki before he does something else. Bro, people are watching us, Kirishima added. Just as speaking, the audience was looking right at their seat as they were wondering what the commotion was all about. They saw a boy thrashing around while being held by 3 boys from the same class and a girl with a black-haired ponytail with a reddened cheek, and that's all they needed to draw the picture. Is that Katsuki Bakugo from the tournament? Yeah, what's going on down there? Did he just slap that girl? He did. I saw him slap her cheek. Are they having an argument or something? Someone call a teacher. 2, Katsuki glances at his left and right, seeing the looks they gave him, and his heart starts to grow anxious, like he was being chased by some phantom or something, ready to grasp at his heart and rip it out from his ribcage. It's the same feeling again, like someone is hiding behind him, holding a grip on his back with a skeleton finger that's dipped in ice, wanting to claim his soul and just itching to yank it out of his corpse. 2, now people are looking at them, looking at him. But not in the way he dreamed of. Now how he wanted them to see him. People are looking at him with accusatory looks, like he just did something wrong, but he couldn't be in the wrong. He was gonna be the next #1 hero. He's gonna surpass All Might one day, so how could he be in the wrong for doing something right for him? 5. Will Katsuki Bakugo and Itsuka Kendo head to their designated hallway for the second semi-final match? The speaker starts to announce his name to heads to the arena where he will be fighting against Man Hands. Now he remembers that she's one of Deku's shitty friends. He looked up at the brackets. The semi-final was next, and he saw the face of Man Hands paired up with him. Deku is a worthless, pathetic loser. Anyone who actually would want to be friends with him. They're equally as worthless and pathetic. More pathetic than Deku. Well, if Man Hands wants to try and make him slip up, he just needs to make sure she doesn't ever forget her place. On the ground, under his boot, just like all the other worthless extras in the world too. Kendo enters the tunnel, headed to her match, not expecting that she'll go this far to reach the semi-final, while looking forward to her match despite knowing who her opponent is. She knew of Bakugo's involvement with Izuku's school life, and he was the main bully of him when he was in middle school. The fact that he was sitting in hero course didn't sit right with her, even if he somehow confessed that he repents because it only satisfied the abuser and not the victim. She continued to walk in the tunnel when a visage of Izuku appeared on the wall waiting for her to come. Izuku. I'm gonna say this just once. Please drop your match. Sorry. Bakugo, he's not gonna hold back with his match. Especially knowing that you and I were friends. He's gonna see it that it's a way to get back at me for no apparent reason. Izuku I don't want to see you getting hurt because of me. Please, for Kendo looked at him for a moment before closing her eyes and giving her an answer. I'm sorry, but I can't. Kendo shakes her head. After I just saw your scar during the match, I couldn't let him go no matter what. I want to make him pay. She walked past ahead of him before giving a warm smile and looking at his back. You'll cheer on me during my match, won't you? Not looking at her, Izuku gave his reply. Sure. Soon Kendo makes her way to the match as the crowd cheers on her entry before making his way forward to the arena to meet her opponent. Midnight stood in between the arena while keeping an eye on both of them. Upon entering, she noted that her opponent was already standing there, looking at her with an angry glare in his eyes. Do you always look that angry? Kendo called out. Or did your face just get stuck that way when you were born? If anything, the blonde boy's glare seemed to deepen at her words, like she just spitting right in front of his face and mocking him. He's growing angry right now, standing under the hot sun while about to face Deku's beach, and just ready to let loose and show her her place in this world. At the Class B booth, Izuku walks in and joins the rest of Class B to watch over the match that's about to take place, all worrying about the outcome of this match is gonna turn ugly. Did you tell her? I did. And? She refused, Setsuna sighed, looking all worried the same, but tried to calm herself. It's okay. If it's too much, the teacher will stop it, right? Yeah, Vlad-sensei will step in if things go awry. Pony added. Yeah, he'll probably will cause I'll stop the match myself if it's come to that. He whispered in a low tone away from any of their earshot. Both students stare at each other waiting for the match to start as Midnight is staring at the two of them in worry of what's going to take place at this match. The semi-final match between Katsuki Bakugo versus Itsuka Kendo will begin now. Die! Right off the bat, Katsuki launched an explosion at the ground, flipping over Kendo to avoid an enlarged fist aiming at his face. Once he reached the apex of his jump, he detonated an explosion to Kendo's back, launching her forward in a cry of pain. Kendo dropped into an acrobatic tumble, rolling forward into a bicycle kick, using the move that she learned in karate, catching Katsuki in the chest and causing his chest to get hit slightly. Kendo flipped back around, standing on her feet, and dropping into a ready stance. Katsuki Bakugo dealt the first attack straight away. Present Mike yelled out. And yet Itsuka Kendo is continued with a follow-up attack. Her awe was interrupted as Katsuki dropped low to the ground, a vicious scowl on his face glaring at her ready to strike. Deku's beach. Just stay down, why don't you? Katsuki growled in rage before charging forward. He propelled himself forward and threw his right hook at him packed with an explosion, aiming at her abdomen. Die! Katsuki shouted. Katsuki's fist was about to make its way to Kendo, but not before Kendo slapped his hand away from him upward, using her feet to kick it and throw a spinning kick right at his abdomen, instead causing the boy to stumble back. Itsuka Kendo has delivered a strong blow to her opponent, folks. It looks like Kendo is not gonna give up as well. Katsuki wiped the dirt from his face while looking at his opponent standing, not looking all scared whatsoever at him. It's almost like she wanted to have this match. Is it hurt? Is it hurt? Like what you did to Midoriya all those years? Kendo asked with a hardened look on her face. Deku told you about it. He wiped off the dirt on his face, not taking his eyes off from her. Just the part of how you were a bully to him, Kendo said. I'm not a bully, Katsuki replied back. 11. Then what do I call you then? Kendo said in return, causing the boy to stand in silence in anger. 5. Katsuki never liked that word to begin with. Bully. 3. He's not a bully to begin with. He wants to be a hero, trying to prove to every extras in the world that he's the best, the strongest. But some people can't learn of their place, such as dreadlocks, man hands, ponytail and Deku. And that's why he needs to teach them a lesson. That it's his job to put them in their place. 11. Katsuki rushed at Kendo, who threw a punch forward, but then he used an explosion to rapidly flit around to her side, grabbing her outstretched arm and detonating, causing her to fall to the ground in pain, and Katsuki approached Kendo from behind, explosions popping in his hand. Kendo noticed this and kicked her leg backward towards Katsuki's chest. Katsuki, however, sidestepped the kick and lunged forward, grabbing Kendo's upper ankle, and releasing another explosion there, shredding her breathed leg to the knee, and causing her to scream in pain as her ankle bent to an uncomfortable angle. There's more where that came from. Beach. Katsuki grins like a wolf hunting down to his prey. She realized that right now, Katsuki is not fighting to win but for pleasure. He wants to see his opponent squirm in pain, begging for surrender while he continues to throw punch after punch till he gains the perfect victory. I need to use that move. 3. She throws a kick over to Katsuki's abdomen, trying to break his defense using her karate move, but the explosion quirk user is more talented when it comes to fighting and throws an explosion to her chest and blasts her to the back. If I used this move in dojo, I'll be sure to get suspended, but I have no other choices now. Katsuki charged ahead like a wild fireball, trying to throw another explosion punch at her, when Kendo threw an upper kick to his chin and Kendo enlarged her fist, then slammed Katsuki's head together. Katsuki's head gets slammed by her fist, and then suddenly something felt weird to him. His vision looks blurry and somehow his movement feels wobble, like he's about to lose his balance. Yeah. That's it, Kendo. Tetsu shouted over at what she just did. What is that? What did she do? Ibara, along with the others, asked, wanting to know what she just did. From the looks of it, Bakugo seems to be in pain or something. Dual tympanic attack. Izuku said, not taking his eyes off the arena. It's a dangerous technique for fighting. Guarantee of beating your opponent no matter how skillful or strong they are, but it's illegal in an official match. 2. Is slamming someone's head that dangerous? Monoma asked. Very. Human ears aren't just for hearing. It's also crucial for one of the most important senses. Equilibrium. It's a sense to balance your entire sensory. So what are you saying, Midoriya? Aways asked along with the class who wanted to know. Kendo only has a few seconds to finish Bakugo before it's too late. Izuku states, praying that she could finish him off before he recovers. Taking her chance, Kendo threw a punch over to Katsuki's face as he stumbled back from the blow and then took one another between his face and abdomen, hitting him in a barrage of punches, and the blow itself was pretty strong and heavy. I can't take my chance. I need to finish this fast. Kendo thought, throwing off punches rapidly. He tried to block against it, but his vision and brain were still wobbling from the blow he just received, unable to do anything while trying quickly to recover from it. He didn't know what she just did, but he needed to get over it fast. She landed an uppercut to his chin while jabbing his face as he stumbled while trying to finish this match, not wanting to prolong the fight even more. But when she tried to get close, Katsuki threw an explosion right in front of him, blasting her. Erg! Katsuki, however, shakes off the blow and charges forward after recovering. Kendo tried to get up, but Katsuki used an explosion to launch himself forward, pinning Kendo to the ground and punching her in the nose. You had your fun, Beach, but it's my turn now. Katsuki's grin grew manic, almost feral with its bloodlust. Again and again, Katsuki unleashed his fist into Kendo's face, leading to bruising around her eye and nose. Kendo got a foot under Katsuki and kicked him off, and slowly stood, one eye swelling shut from the blows to the head. Right now, Katsuki is doing everything he can to win the match, not knowing that he's now looking less of a hero candidate and more of a berserker. The rest of Class B hears Katsuki shout out at Kendo. "So, man hands." The explosive blonde lets off some showy explosions in his palms, causing Kendo to flinch back. "Still think I'm all bark?" Katsuki lurched forward, releasing an explosion into Kendo's abdomen, causing her to double over. "Better get this through your thick skull, man hands." A powerful explosion lands over again to her abdomen. "I'm the greatest to ever live." Another explosion, this one knocking Kendo to the ground. "Everyone knows that I'm the best. Everyone." He kicks Kendo, causing her to curl up to protect her sides. "And I'm not about to let you or anyone else question my greatness." The rest of Class B is shaking with rage at Katsuki's words. All of it is to preserve his ego. 𝗬𝗬𝗪 looked at Kendo, who had her head down, and her shoulders shaking, unable to see his friend get treated like this. 𝗬𝗪𝗪 looked to his side and saw Izuku standing holding to the metal railing tightly while biting his lip in anger, and the steel quirk user could have sworn that the metal railing was slightly bent from his grip. 𝗬𝗪𝗪 wants to lurched forward, desperately wanting to comfort his friend before he heard the bubbling of bitter laughter coming from her. Kendo was laughing at Katsuki. The laughter continued, catching both Katsuki and Midnight off guard. Kendo's laughter was stilted, and her breathing was clearly labored from her injuries. But still, she laughed at Katsuki, whose expression was changing from shock to fury, wanting to know what was funny. Kendo stood up, stumbling lightly for a moment, but still laughing regardless. Katsuki begins to quake with rage, but Kendo begins to speak, between bouts of laughter and coughing. "Think I get it now," Kendo says. You're just pathetic." 𝗬𝗪𝗪 looked at the orange-haired girl in confusion, seeing her trying to stand tall despite her injuries, and tried to decipher her behavior. Kendo continues. "You really are just another bully, all ego, no substance. You don't deserve to be called a hero." For Katsuki, who heard those words, began to grit his teeth from the inside of his mouth. A drip of 𝗕𝗲𝗍 slipped from his lips, feeling all frustrated as things began to fall apart. Things began to slip away from his grasp just like everything else. Flashback start. "Do you realize how stupid you sound right now?" Izumi stood in front of Katsuki in the hallway, crossing her arms in front of her chest. "Izumi, why can't you just agree to it? Your parents, they already gave their word -1, and that just put everything in place." Izumi shot back. "So it's what you wanted instead of what I wanted. We both want this. You know it too." Katsuki pushed the conversation once more, placing his hand over to hers, but Izumi pushed him. "No, you don't," Izumi replied back in a harsh tone. "All you did is just try to get yourself a good grace with my dad. You just want to create the perfect origin story for your dream of becoming the #1 hero. It's disgusting. My love is real. It's not a lie. 5. You are using him as an excuse. You son of a bitch. What the hell are you talking about? You were so obsessed with my brother that you would risk my life and my future just to get back at him. It's pathetic." Katsuki let out with a desperate laugh. "Deku, you mean you don't love me?" Izumi hissed right to his face, looking like she had enough of him. "Your ego's too big. You're too busy trying to be the smartest man in the room. And then you met my brother, and you realized he's smarter than you." 3. Katsuki grits his teeth in annoyance. Once again Deku's name is brought up. "I don't think so." Katsuki shakes his head. "Are you sure?" Izumi asked, detecting that he doesn't sound confident in his words. "I'm positive. Our love was real, Izumi," Katsuki said. "Past tense," Izumi replied, emphasis on the word was. "I still love you. And yet I don't." Izumi turned around and began to walk away, leaving Katsuki alone in the hallway all by himself. Goodbye, Bakugo. Flashback end. Everything is just the same. No matter which direction he goes or does, Deku is always stood next to him, disrupting his destiny and goal no matter what. It was just the whole world against him, wasn't it? It was his destiny to become the #1 hero, so why couldn't anyone see that? Why couldn't he ever get the help towards that like Deku did? Deku was a quirkless nobody whose only purpose in life was to get in his way and stop him from realizing his potential. He'd done it throughout their childhood and he was doing it now. He needed to go back to the way he was. He needed to be ruthless and only focus on his dreams. He looked to his front and saw Man Hand standing in front of him before grinning in pure malice. And I know where just to start. Katsuki lets out a bark of a laugh, staring at Kendo like a panther staring down at a dying deer. Pathetic. The only pathetic one is you. Look at you trying to act big. But really you're terrified. Katsuki laughs and Kendo's act drops, curling down, letting her brave expression fade, and her fear shines to the surface. Eventually though, Katsuki's laughter fades, and his stance curls downward ready to pounce. Acting all brave when you're shaking in your boots. I hate people like you. One Katsuki springs forward, tackling Kendo on the ground, who struggles against Katsuki, launching punches to his face. Katsuki launches an explosion into her chest, causing her to gasp out in pain, which Katsuki uses to grab Kendo by the neck, unleashing a punch to her face while holding her in place. Do you know what it means to defy me, you beach? You, Deku, everyone else in this world, you're nothing but a stepping stone for my destiny. Katsuki whispered directly to her ears. Katsuki throws another explosive punch directly at Kendo, causing her to shriek in pain. Everyone in the arena could hear the sound of her screaming in pain before her vision started to get blurry from the pain. Stop the match. He's all out of control. Aizawa ordered. Namiri, stop the match. It's over. Get the hell out of the arena. Midnight bellows out at Katsuki, trying to put a stop to it. Any further action against your opponent, and I will disqualify you. However, the explosion is too loud for either Kendo or Katsuki to hear, while the boy continues to fire off his explosion one after another. Each one is stronger than before. Behind those loud booming of explosions, Katsuki's maniac laughter is echoed across the whole stadium for everyone to hear. Kendo, who was lying on the ground, saw Katsuki's scary and disgusted face looking at her while enjoying tormenting her in the arena as he kept throwing one explosion after another at her. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 stares in horror, seeing his best friend pinned and crying out, but still fighting despite that. He can't bear to witness the cruelty that's placed right in front of him. Enough. He decides that enough is enough and starts to rush the stage. Not care if he gets punished for it. Immediately, someone beat him to it already. 7 whack just as Katsuki is about to throw another set of explosions. His face gets blown by a punch, and he throws him off the arena. His body rolls down on the ground. Katsuki looked up to see who dared to interrupt him, and look at the cloud of smoke at the arena to see a messy green-haired in the middle of the cloud of smoke. The smoke dispersed and revealed Izuku standing in the arena while looking coldly in a silent rage, with one hand holding to Kendo's head, who's passed out from her injury, and the other gripping, forming a fist while glaring at the blonde ash-haired boy. Kendo! One 𝗧𝗵𝗃 and Monoma both shouted out Kendo's name as they rushed toward the arena. Izuku placed Kendo carefully on the concrete ground of the arena as 𝗧𝗵𝗃 and Monoma came to check up on her. Are you okay? Hang in there. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 said, holding on to Kendo. She's not responding at all and seems to be unconscious from the pain inflicted by Bakugou from the last match. How could you do this to her, 𝗬𝗲𝗍? Monoma shouted at Katsuki in anger. Get her to the infirmary immediately. Midnight ordered. Someone called Vlad along with recovery girl right away. We need a medic. Kendo, hang in there. Setsuna called out. The rest of the girls rushed towards Kendo's side as they glared at Katsuki in anger, who was coming to the arena while clicking his tongue. What are you staring at? Katsuki asked, showing a thin smile. The rest of them were glaring at Katsuki in rage while the others were helping to move Kendo to the infirmary, leaving only 𝗧𝗵𝗃, Monoma, Shishida, Setsuna, Pony, Kamakiri, and Izuku in the arena. All 7 of them were glaring daggers at Katsuki. I asked you, what are you looking at? I acted within the rules, you know. Katsuki stated, feigning his ignorance like he didn't do anything wrong. For rules, you say? You mean torturing an opponent who's already lost? 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 asked as Katsuki chuckled. All that matters is that I won, right? Katsuki countered as 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 gave him a stern look. Man hands should be glad I let her be in third place. Even though the girl is a useless piece of garbage in the first place. What? 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 exclaimed. Suddenly, Izuku stepped forward and was in front of Katsuki, glaring at him. Their heads are close to one another, ready to square off, skipping the formality and rules. Katsuki smirks, licking his lips in satisfaction, seeing that Deku is confronting him and not hiding in shadow like he's been doing all this time. Finally, he had him right where he wanted. 1-0. What's this? Are both of them about to rumble? Present Mike questioned, exciting the crowd. They're gonna start something here. Katsuki Bakugo versus Izuku Midoriya. They were gonna skip the order and just go for it now. Screw the rules. 3, yeah, that's more like it. Fight. 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 At the teacher's booth, they all watched as the two finalists were standing close to each other, face ready to square off, waiting for the other to throw the first punch. We need to keep things calm here, Principal Nizu said from his booth while looking at the situation in his hands as the crowd was eager for them both to fight. 5. This is one of those unavoidable things, you know. Izumi said on the student booth, watching the confrontation between the two. Guess it's about to happen, Iida spoke. In the arena, Izuku and Katsuki didn't move for an inch while looking at each other. Momo, Kaminari, and 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, the three boys from their class, stood close to one another in a tight formation. This isn't an official match. If they do this, we'll go out there too. Momo claimed, whispering to Kaminari and 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 behind him. They both nodded at the suggestion. For finally I got to beat the CRP of this, but Kaminari agreed. Calm down, for crying out loud. Setsuna scolded. She wanted to get a payback for what he did to Kendo, but if they continued, then this is gonna turn into an all-out brawl. Worst case scenario, they could get suspended or expelled. Izuku and Katsuki stared at one another, sizing each other up while the crowd chanted, fight, over and over. 𝗕𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗿𝗽. I'm gonna beat this 𝗕𝗓 out of all of you. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 threatened, stepping forward before someone stopped him. Momo grabbed onto 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧's arm, preventing him from going further, as they all could see that Izuku was the one who seemed ready to explode. I hope you're more than ready to put your money where your mouth is. Izuku had a dark look on his face, breaking his calm, cold persona while looking ready to explode. 'Cause I'll F your life when this tournament is over. 3. At the infirmary, the rest of Class B was visiting Kendo's injury as she remained unconscious from the pain and injury she felt from the match just now. Her body is covered in bruises from her abdomen and arms, but Recovery Girl luckily said that those wounds could heal thanks to her quirk. 3. Izuku enters the room and looks at Kendo sleeping on her bed. Is she okay? Recovery Girl said that she's fine. She just needs some rest, that's all. Setsuna replied. The major wounds are gone, so that's good news, Ibara added. That besarted 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 trailed off. I know what you mean, Awaze told him. Bakugo, that guy is a freaking sociopath. One knock came on their door and someone entered, revealing Izumi and Momo, who came, judging by the looks from Class B. Their visit wasn't welcome here. What the hell are you doing here? Kaminari angrily marched in. Is Class A have no shame at all coming into this place after hurting one of our classmates? Momo taunts them both. Please, we just want to check on her condition, that's all. Momo spoke softly, unable to look at them. You don't get to waltz in here and demand a cup of tea, let alone this. Have you lost your mind or something? Setsuna shouts over. Momo and Kaminari were ready to throw them out of the room, but Izuku put his hand in between, stopping them. Midoriya, 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 objects. Let them in, Izuku replied. Midoriya. Momo looked aghast. It's okay, Izuku replied, giving his word to them. Soon afterward, They allowed them both to enter, and the two of them came to take a look at Kendo's situation as to what their classmate did to her. While Izumi doesn't know Kendo on a friendly level, Momo and Kendo are fellow class presidents from two neighboring classes, and they grow close as friends. Both of them looked over to her injury, remembering how those injuries were also to be the one on Izuku's body all those years ago. The bruises, the burn marks. And now those same injuries were taking place on someone else who didn't deserve at Katsuki's receiving end. For Izumi dropped to her knees while sobbing in a mess, looking at the injury, seeing the image of Kendo as her brother, knowing that it was her father's fault for giving Katsuki the chance to be here. She should have spoken up. She should have told her father that Katsuki didn't deserve his chance, and instead, she just turned into a bystander. 15 Momo meanwhile still standing, but also shared her fault, knowing that it was their fault for letting this happen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Izuku stared at the two of them, finally opening their eyelid wide open, that their action does have consequences. And sometimes people get caught in the crossfire as well, and it's gonna cause pain to those who receive it, whether it's physical, emotional, or even both. The rest of Class B were left wondering why the two Class A students came suddenly crying while looking at Kendo's situation, since it wasn't them who did it, but rather their classmate. So why did they look like they also shared the blame? The speaker in the room suddenly spoke up. Will contestants Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo head to their respective tunnels for the final match? Izuku, who was in the room, perked up at the announcement and clenched his fist tightly with his hair shadowing his eyes. Can I trust you guys to look after her? Izuku asked for everyone in the room. His voice felt cold, almost like ice. Why, yeah, sure, 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 said, feeling a bit uneasy by his chilling tone. Izuku nodded before heading to the door. Setsuna asked him, "Where are you going?" Izuku spoke in a low tone. "I'm gonna kill him." 10-1. At the teacher's booth after the whole situation was over, everyone shared a contemplating look, a mix of anger and confusion over what happened just now with Katsuki Bakugo's match against Itsuka Kendo. What was supposed to be a friendly match between two respective hero course students has turned into a horror show where Bakugo is the psychopath wielding a chainsaw and Kendo is the helpless victim lying on the table. Vlad King, who's the homeroom teacher of Kendo, grips his knuckle till it's white. He never before had felt this kind of anger before. The level of rage that's boiling inside of him is a new level compared to any of the previous anger he ever felt, watching his students get treated like ragdolls. "I'm just going to come out and say it," Vlad spoke up. His voice held a great amount of anger. "Bakugo needs to be disqualified right away for what he did to my student as a start." Tashinori quickly turns his head over to the 𝗵𝗃𝗍. "Hold on, Kansas, aren't you jumping off the gun a little bit quickly? We don't know the full story so far." Jumping off. "Have you seen what he did to my student?" Vlad slammed his hand over to the table, startling Tashinori with his exploding rage. "Her parents have been on the call with me for over an hour questioning why we as the teacher didn't step in to stop the match, and it takes a quirkless student from support course to grow a pair of ball and do it for us." 6. A quirkless student from the support course came to put a stop to the match, while we the teacher sat around twiddling our thumbs watching it happen. How can we look at our students' faces from now on if we allow such thing take place? Namiri, why didn't you put a stop to it when you can? You were on the field, damn it. Vlad shifted his attention to the R-rated hero for an explanation. "I tried that. But Bakugo didn't listen to what I said because of how loud his explosions were. By the time I wanted to use my quirk on him, Midoriya beat me to it." Midnight replied, looking ashamed that she couldn't protect her students from harming one another. "For I want Katsuki Bakugo disqualified from the tournament right now." 1. Can be realistic. We can't shut down a person's dream just because of a minor dispute. 9. A minor. Don't you see how he tried to mangle her on the stadium? Vlad King exploded, his face red like his costume. What would happen if Bakugo took things too far and somehow caused a permanent injury to her? We would be having a different conversation right now. Hell, we'll be lucky if we don't face a lawsuit. 1. Vlad, while I feel for you and understand where you are coming from, you are ignoring the bigger picture. Tashinori tensed his hands, staring down at the table. In truth, the sports festival is a chance for the hero course to display themselves to the world, and show the public that they are here as the next generation of heroes. As unfortunate as young Kendo incident may seem, young Bakugo is doing just that. 6. Leaning back, Toshinori's eyes locked onto 𝗲𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁 face. I believe that in this instance, young Bakugo was attempting to show his directive when it comes to the path of villainy. He wishes to market himself as brutal, but decisive, and so far he has done just that. One of my students is to be the example for it. You're out of your mind. For Vlad, I can understand your anger, but unfortunately, there isn't much that can be done at this point. Nizu gestures to Kan. Toshinori has some point, though not in the way he intends to. All of the injuries that were inflicted on Kendo, while painful, can be healed by Recovery Girl. The student will suffer no permanent physical injuries from this situation. 3. As for your claim of willful maiming, we do not know if that is the case, or if this is a matter of youthful negligence. Yue has had its fair share of those, if you can recall. Nizu closes his eyes. Finally, while Bakugo's display may have seemed overwhelming, he did not break any rules with his display. While it is recommended you do not go too far in combat, situations happen when young people are put into a ring. Sometimes they go too far, but sometimes overwhelming force is necessary to overcome overwhelming odds. Sometimes you must go beyond and make a statement. 15. 𝗲𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁𝗂's fists clenched painfully, the grip digging into his palm. Looking around, he noted that all of the other teachers had fallen silent. But what I want to discuss is the incident that happened before Bakugo's match takes place. Nizu shifted the screen to show Midoriya walking out from the ring after Todoroki's match with his scar on full display. They all recognize it from the previous match. Jesus, Present Mike looks away at the scars on his back. How is that kid still standing? I have no idea. 13. Look at the images. Midoriya might have some kind of trauma or experience some form of bullying while in his school, but strangely enough, I didn't find any shred of evidence from the school that said anything about victim of bullying, despite his status fits as a target for middle school children. 1. What are you talking about, Principal? Aizawa joins in. Midoriya fits the profile of a bullied child. No quirk, father gone, and introverted child. And yet somehow there's not an ounce of report of bullying case, and yet the boy's body is riddled with injuries. One day, on the last day of school, there was a case where he stabbed a student and got expelled, and suddenly the school also kept quiet regarding the matter. It's almost like the school is shrouded with secrets and didn't want the matter gone to the public. 10. How could the school hide such matter in the first place? It's almost impossible with this current age, you know. I'm still looking at it. The only thing I could think of was someone with high authority helping them from behind to cover this mess. But that mysterious person is still unknown up to this point. 2. Toshinori, who listened at the back, felt nervous knowing that Principal Nizu was on to him right now. Sure, the principal didn't know who covered those incidents, but it's only a matter of time before he did, and his name is gonna come out. 3. And what about the said student K that's on the news? There's a chatter on the media that Katsuki Bakugo might be the said student, that he's the one who's responsible for harming Midoriya. Power Loader chimes in, mentioning the hot topic of the century so far. 3. Looking at his way of victory with Kendo, there's a few chatter who come up with a theory that Katsuki Bakugo might be the said student K. Midnight spoke up, scrolling her phone on the said chatter website. 1. If that's the case, then all the more reason to stop the match right away and disqualify Bakugo right away. 𝗲𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁 added, already wanting to stop the match and prevent the boy from participating. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice regarding that decision. Nizu shakes his head, which causes 𝗲𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁 to slam his hand to the desk. Oh no, come on. You've done a lot of things that are questionable and we never even judged or criticized you about them. But now one of our students might be an abuser and someone who might had a criminal past and you got all spooked. Hell, you've dropped kids from the hero course for less. 2. Ken, do you know how many people there are in this prefecture alone with the name starts with K? Nizu asked, using his real name to confirm how serious this was. Thousands, maybe even 100,000. And that's not counting the other prefecture. We didn't even know the gender or age of this student K, so we can't exactly pin the boy without any concrete evidence or a confession from either party just because he has an anger management issue. 3. Then we'll get one. If we question one or two of them and get the confession from Detective 𝗧𝗵𝗲 right now, then everything is done. 3. The rules of the tournament stated that no outside party from either students, teachers, or even visitors are allowed to get anywhere with the contestants during the sports festival making progress. It was to avoid any kind of tampering, cheating, or even forced forfeit from outside parties to make sure the match was conducted fairly. Even we the staff or the police can't interview them at this moment. 1. The bell rings informing of the final match is about to take place as the teachers stop in the middle of the conversation. Okay, we'll continue this conversation later on. But Namuri, keep an eye on Katsuki Bakugo during the match. If anything looks excessive, stop the match and disqualify him. Nizu warned her and she nodded and took her leave. 1. Toshinori also walks out of the room before he hides behind the wall looking all panicked and flustered, seeing how everything will crumble right away because of the principal picking his nose up to where it didn't belong and siding with that quirkless runt. For texting his phone. He needs to do something immediately to ensure that young Bakugo wins his match no matter what it takes, even if it means sabotage. 1. Toshinori. Find a way to make him forfeit. By any means necessary. 5. He then looked at his message already being read and sighed for a moment. At least one problem is being taken care of. Toshinori felt a buzzing from his pocket and pulled his phone out from it, immediately recognizing the number, tapping the answer button. He lifted the phone to his ear and started to begin speaking, but was immediately interrupted. All might, an aged masculine voice spoke from the other end of the phone, one that he knew well. Do you know why I am calling? 2. I think I can make a guess, sir. Toshinori spoke, clearing his throat slightly. Good, then I won't waste time. Toshinori could hear the steel in his voice. He knew this was not going to be light conversation. That quirkless boy is making a mockery of the UA Sports Festival. He needs to be taken out of the competition and it needs to happen now. 1. I'm already working on it, sir. Izuku Midoriya would not be advancing to the finals. I can promise you that, sir. For good, this whole charade is a problem not just for the prestige of UA, but for the future of our organization as well. That is unacceptable. That Midoriya name can't be allowed to take the spotlight in heroism. It's the last thing we need. Am I made myself clear? 2. Yes, sir, I understand. Good. With that, Toshinori heard the other end of the line click, ending the call, and Toshinori stowed his phone away again. He turned to look at the brackets again. His eyes locking onto Midoriya's name. That Midoriya name, it keeps chasing me even when he's already gone. That 𝗕𝗏𝗄 𝗧𝗵𝗲. 3. Izuku walked slowly down the hall. His face hardened after hearing the announcement coming from the speaker of his match with Bakugo. Finally, he's gonna get his chance to pay him back. For all the humiliation, the ridicule, the countless nights he couldn't sleep thinking how badly he's gonna get hurt. All of that will be paid in full from this one single match. But something also fueled him into going into this match. Seeing Kendo get hurt and become a victim of Bakugo reminds him of the time when he was living in that situation, looking all helpless. That's why he didn't think much and just put a stop to the match himself. Izuku sighs to himself, and steers his attention to the final match, to his opponent. Immediately his gaze hardens, and he focuses his attention before opening the door. Immediately his gaze fell on the floor. The locker where he kept his invention is busted and being ransacked on the inside. His repulsor blaster is smashed into pieces with the circular laser is destroyed. The leg booster is also having the same situation in complete ruins with no chance of fixing it. The metal staff that he used when fighting against Iida is also snapped in two. They've gone so desperate to act something this childish. For he could tell straight away that this was sabotaged. If he had to make a guess, this was probably done by Bakugou or Todoroki because he was bitter about losing to him. 1. They want me to give up, but that's not going to happen. Katsuki stood in his corner, smirking at his circumstances. Deku, it seems that the quirkless freak still didn't know his place. walking around in that junk pile he calls invention and pretends to be big. But Katsuki knows the truth. That little weakling is a pathetic coward, and even with that invention flying around like some glorified idiot, he wouldn't stand a chance against a real hero like him. The loud teacher called out for the match to start, and Katsuki waltzed out to the stage, licking his lips in anticipation of the chance to beat down Deku once and for all. At the stadium, Present Mike was at his best, his electrifying voice resonating throughout the venue as he captivated the audience with his endless energy. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The grand finale. UA's top students will face off in a battle that will determine who will be this year's champions at the Grand Sports Festival. With a dramatic move, Present Mike raised his microphone, his voice reverberating like thunder in the air. Let it not be said that we were not here to make history. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, a tide of enthusiasm and energy filling every corner of the stadium. Spectators waved banners, shouting the names of their favorite heroes with enthusiasm. The atmosphere was electric, like a lightning bolt about to strike, and the tension grew as the moment of truth approached. We have competitors who will let nothing stand in their way to glory. On one side, we have the fearsome Katsuki Bakugo, with his incredible explosive power that leaves everyone breathless. The mention of Bakugo's name suddenly filled the stadium with a booing sound after his performance with Kendo in the last match, and didn't get as much enthusiasm as he expected. Katsuki grits his teeth in annoyance hearing them booing over to him. He's gonna show it to them. That quirkless Deku is gonna lie under the ground with his foot stomping over to his chest, as he begs for air. And on the other side of the ring, we have the incredible boy from support course. The boy who has proven time and time again that determination and hard work can overcome any obstacle. Give it up for Izuku Midoriya. Present Mike raised his voice even higher, letting each word fall like a bolt of pure energy. Katsuki stands in his spot on the arena floor, waiting for Deku to show up in his stupid invention, but that never happens. A minute passes and Katsuki starts to get irritated. Then they heard it, the soft sounds of footsteps. His figure of a short boy emerged from the darkness of the dark tunnel and headed to the end of the light. His green hair was left wild and messy, bushing up on the top of his head, coated in a layer of dirt and grime, and falling to his chin. Some strands even fell in front of his face. The boy wore the normal UA long-sleeved gym uniform, covering both arms minus the invention. No blaster, no booster, no fancy glasses, or even his staff that he used when fighting Four Eyes. Katsuki looked at the boy in shock, who seemed livid. Izuku made it onto the stage, looking at Katsuki with rage, which caused the explosive blonde to sneer back. The audience was silent, staring at the quirkless boy in shock, coming with no inventions. Katsuki then chuckles, laughing to himself while staring at the boy, who remained standing, glaring at the blonde. Is this some sort of joke? After all that bluster with those junks you showed, you come out empty-handed naked at the field. The explosive blonde stops laughing, leaning forward, small explosions popping on his hands. I'm gonna enjoy this and I won't stop even if you beg me for it. Izuku leans down as well, his glare never wavering, and doesn't say a word, leaving Katsuki to growl at him. You know, Deku. He spits the word out like venom. I figured you had learned your lesson those 10 years ago, but I guess I wasn't clear enough then. An explosion interrupts his sentence, and Katsuki fixes Izuku with a sadistic smirk. But don't worry, I plan to correct that mistake now, instead of shrinking, like Katsuki thought he would, Izuku instead smirking back at Katsuki. You may not believe it, Bakugo, but I was hoping for this, hoping to fight you here to show the world just how pathetic you are. That caused Katsuki to bare his teeth. Katsuki's rage began to erupt after hearing how he's called pathetic by the waste of space like Deku. But the one thing he could shake off is those cold eyes, looking down on him like he was amount nothing to his eyes. Those eyes that say that he saw him as inferior. He despises it for the rest of his life and wants to wipe that expression for good. Hey, I want to up the challenge. Katsuki roared out in the stadium, looking in Midnight's direction. Who's the referee? No bars, no time limits, no interference, one man standing rule. Katsuki's sudden declaration has brought the whole stadium to a standstill as one student wants to raise the stake of this challenge. Having no limitation means that both students will fight with no interruption from outside parties. The only way to win is through making the opponent give up. It's a resemblance of a street fight taking place midnight, who's acting as the referee is about to reject such a proposal when suddenly someone speaks from the speaker throughout the stadium. "I'll accept the rule." Speaking from the microphone, All Might came down in his muscle persona while smiling in his signature standing as always looking at the stage. Midnight is about to interject before he cuts her off for the second time. Recently, the number of crime stats has been rising exponentially in the last year. Villains have grown braver, daring, and known no fear. As an upholder of justice, we as heroes must show to those villains that we are present and will strike them down with hammers of justice. All Might shifted his gaze to young Bakugo, sharing a look that this was just like they wanted. With no hold barrel, young Bakugo would surely beat his stepson into 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗔. He would prove to the audience that quirk is everything that it takes to perform in heroism. For when he turned his attention to see the expression of his stepson, something caught him off guard. He was sure that employing this rule would turn him scared, knowing his life would be in grave danger, but he would never suspected to see him smiling. "For I'm sure all of our viewers have been eagerly looking forward to this battle," Present Mike announced as Izuku and Katsuki standing at the arena, a fateful showdown between a hero course student and a support course student. Izuku Momo muttered, "I've been waiting for this moment." Katsuki thought, "It's finally come. Sock it to him." Tetsu encouraged. "Get him for us too," Monoma said. "I have faith you'll win," Setsuna added. "It's about to start," Hananuki stated. "I'm sure Izuku will be okay. I'm sure he'll win," Izumi claimed. The time to clash is here at last. Who will win, quirk or no quirk? The two of them are on the field. Present Mike said. Katsuki is gonna win for sure, Kaminari said. Yeah, Bakugou has been training his whole life for this. Kirishima joins in. Deku, he's gonna pay for what he did to all of us, Shoto said. Yeah, he will. Mina nods. For all of us. Compared to Deku, Bakugou trained his life for this. He's gonna get floored for sure, Uraraka added. All Might watched from the stand and his phone rang again, knowing who it was. Yes. So you decided to make an example out of him. All Might listened to his steel-chilling voice from the phone, knowing who it was. Excellent. Now the world could see him losing miserably and sending the message that quirkless people aren't worth anything. Not to worry, sir. Katsuki Bakugou is a prodigy in fighting. His quirk is one of the most powerful and versatile of this generation. He will take care of defeating that disgusting quirkless. Good, make sure to highlight his defeat on camera. He ended the conversation and hung up as All Might watched the match is about to take place. Hisashi, your remnants will fall miserably today. Katsuki, his gaze intense and defiant with a sadistic smile, adjusted his hands, preparing to unleash his explosive power. The determination on his face was clear. He wasn't there just to win. He was there to prove that he was the best and to crush this useless freak. I've been waiting for this, Deku. To finally put you to the ground. Katsuki thinks to himself as the two of them stare at one another. There's no time limit on the match. Only one person standing as victor. Let the match begin. Midnight called out as the match started. Here I come, Deku. Katsuki said, propelling himself forward with his explosion. Katsuki paused. Not expecting to see Deku was already charging at him at such speed that he didn't expect. Izuku punched Katsuki in the face so hard that he skidded on the ground, surprising All Might and the rest of Class A who were watching with their mouth agape. Katsuki's back landed against the floor as he looked to his front where Deku was standing with a cold, calculating look in his eyes. Oi, what do you think it's gonna happen when you come here? Katsuki wiped the dirt off his face while looking at his opponent as he talked. That you're gonna come out as some kind of top dog. That people would worship you like you're some kind of a demigod and kiss the ground where you took your step. Bakugo Izuku spoke. You came to this arena with your own 2 feet to die. 28 Before the match starts, everyone looks excited and looks forward to the finals that are about to take place. Posters on the wall featuring Izuku versus Katsuki were displayed on every corner of the hallway and building. People came running and took their seats in the stadium to watch the match that was about to take place. 5 In the stadium, 5 young teenagers came running into the audience booth and saw the match that was about to take place. They came running with their slippers while trying to catch up to each other. Oi, hurry up. The match is gonna start. Hold up, why don't you? The rest of the group tried to catch up, but the red-haired teen already beat them to it. It's starting. It's starting already. The red-haired teen yelled out, looking all excited. 3 it's not easy to run with these slippers, you know. The girl pants her breath, trying to get some air. Come on, Misaki. We can't miss this match, you know. The teen with blonde hair covering the left side looks at Misaki, the only girl in their group. 3 I know that, but Kenji here has just bulldozed himself through like some kind of bull in a china shop. She points her finger at the red-haired teen in an accusing tone. 1 Yeah, I meant you kinda almost bumped into a kid back there at the vending store. The one who seems to be the oldest with wolfish gray hair scolds Kenji. I said that I'm sorry. Kenji joins his hands together, making an apology gesture. Knock it off, both of you, a voice calls out from the back, revealing a teen who appears to be the shortest among the group, around 5 feet 3 inches with black hair. We're here to see the match, right? The rest of the group also calms themselves while watching the match that takes place. Our brothers' match. 23. Katsuki, who was still recovering from the punch, looked at his above, seeing the quirkless freak who just landed a punch at him now looking down at him with that cold gaze. Get up. You can't be satisfied that this fight ended like that. Izuku replied in a cold tone, almost in mockery. Katsuki grits his teeth in anger, hearing those words coming from the likes of Deku. Does the quirkless freak think that he's just gonna roll down in the dirt while accepting his defeat from a single cheap shot? Katsuki leaps into the air, propelling himself toward the quirkless boy with an explosion-powered lunge. Izuku sees this attack and rolls forward, letting Katsuki fly over him. However, during the lunge, Katsuki angles himself so that one palm is down, and as Izuku rolled, he clipped the quirkless boy in the back, causing him to grunt in pain. Oh, Bakugo has landed the first blow. Present Mike comments. For landing swiftly, Katsuki turns around, only to be met with a straight punch aimed at his head. He barely has a second to move his head to the side before he can avoid a backhand punch following up from the first attack. His head gets slapped from the backhand he just got, feeling how hard and heavy those palms are and able to hit him like that. Even the old hag didn't hit him that hard. 2 Remember that, Bakugo. Izuku growls through grit teeth. I remember the pain you gave to me from your punch almost a year ago. Katsuki bares his teeth at the boy in front of him. You think it matters whatever pathetic punch you 𝗕𝗶𝗍𝗔 out. No matter what you do or what you bring, you will never be able to make a dent in me. 4 At the arena, Katsuki leaps into the air, propelling himself towards the quirkless boy once again like before. Izuku saw this attack and sidestepped to the side, letting the boy crash through and only stopping when he saw his opponent move out of the way. Stop running and fight. Katsuki roared, raising his palm towards Izuku, intending to end this match. 3 However, Izuku, with a speed that almost defied the eyesight of onlookers, dodged the blast with surprising agility. It was as if he had read Bakugo's movements before they happened. The explosion echoed, but he was no longer there. What the hell? It was the only thing that crossed Katsuki's mind the moment Izuku's foot hit his ribs with a force he didn't expect. The blow launched him several meters backward, forcing him to roll on the ground before stopping with a grunt of pain. He's fast, he thought, trying to process what had just happened. Since when can Deku move like that? For Midoriya has landed a hit, folks. This match has turned into something interesting after all. Contest between 2 promising students. Confusion mixed with rage in his chest. Katsuki stood up quickly, brushing the dust off his clothes, the burning in his side fueling his frustration. The crowd roared, surprised by Izuku's swiftness, and shouts of excitement reverberated through the air. "Come on, you can do it!" The crowds cried for the match, while others simply stared in disbelief. Katsuki, feeling his pride had been hurt, clenched his fists, sweat beginning to trickle down his forehead, breathing heavily and with a mix of confusion and rage in his gaze. He quickly stood up, rubbing his sore ribs. What the hell did he do? Since when was Deku capable of fighting like this? He asked himself. Katsuki looked to his opponent while trying to find a logical explanation for Deku's speed and precision, as if he was telling him that he was no longer the same idiot he always used to know. "What did you do, Deku? How the hell did you do those things?" Katsuki yelled out, demanding some form of explanation. Izuku remained completely silent, his cold, calculating gaze fixed on Katsuki. There was not a hint of emotion on his face, as if he was watching a storm from the safety of a shelter. This disregard for provocation was beginning to irritate Katsuki, and frustration bubbled up inside him like an eruption about to explode. "Why aren't you saying anything? This isn't fun." This lack of response destabilized the dynamics of the confrontation, turning what should have been a duel of rivalry into a game of patience. Katsuki felt the energy of the fight fading away, and that made him even angrier. Every second that passed without Izuku responding increased his anger, and his longing for the fight to finally begin became an intense burning of hatred. "You quirkless 𝗧𝗔𝗍, you looking down on me." 11 Katsuki grits his teeth in anger and launches himself forward. He aimed his hand downward, trying to launch himself, but the explosion was nothing but a cover for Katsuki to flank him from behind and launched his explosion on his back. When Katsuki was about to launch his explosion, Izuku turned the body away at a very fast pace and moved the back leg straight toward Katsuki's abdomen, hitting it with his heel. Katsuki is blown to the back while holding his mouth to not vomit. "That was a lowly trick, Deku. As expected from a villain who bribes himself to get here," Katsuki said. 7 However, Izuku didn't give him any form of response and just stood looking at him with a bored expression. "What, got nothing to say?" As expected from a weakling who only knew one move. "You're just lucky, you piece of 𝗧𝗍, but I'm gonna show you your place, right beneath my boot." He continued to taunt him while licking his lips. And once again he didn't respond. "Hey, you quirkless 𝗧𝗍, I'm talking to you." He yelled in anger, not liking the silence or being ignored. He didn't respond and continued to give him a bored expression. "Why, you piece of 𝗧𝗍, are you looking down on me?" Katsuki screamed in anger while charging in his direction. 6 He propels himself to the front while aiming both of his palms together, looking at him with a crazed smile. Stun grenade. A blinding light covered the ground as Katsuki quickly turned to his back and pulled his fist, ready to punch him in the back, packed with an explosion. And when he was about to hit him, he evaded to the side, without looking to the back. "What the?" Katsuki thought. He swiftly kicked him to his side, and the force of the kick managed to push Katsuki's body to the concrete wall. His back hit the wall at the end of the arena, and he could tell the pain that coursed through his body was numbing him. But since it's a one-man standing rule, Katsuki didn't lose from ring out. Wow, another hit has landed on Katsuki Bakugou. Who knew that the boy could put up a fight like that? I thought that since Midoriya used support items during the match, he'd be incapable of throwing a punch or holding his ground. But I guess I was wrong, his fighting prowess is good. Aizawa commented in the commentary box. 2+ Look at that build. He must have hit the gym twice a day if you ask me. Present Mike commented. Katsuki wheezed, trying to catch his breath from the blow just now, noticing how strong it was. "Ah, now I remember." Izuku spoke for a long time with a realized look on his face. "They used to call you king back in 𝗓𝙢𝙢𝙢𝗵𝘆 King Bakugou." 4 Katsuki grunts, holding onto his back while trying to get up, remembering his old nickname back in 𝗓𝙢𝙢 and planning to add the word king to his hero name in the future. "Right now, you're more of a lackey than a king, to be honest," Izuku said, and Katsuki looked in anger. 2 What did you call me?" he growled in anger. "Let me make it easy for you to understand." Izuku replied with a cold gaze. "You're a loser." Katsuki grits his teeth while grabbing his fist tightly so that it almost bleeds. The pain in Katsuki's ribs burned, but that wasn't what consumed him. It wasn't the physical blow that truly hurt. It was those words. Deku's voice, normally filled with insecurity or fear, had now transformed into something sharp, cutting, and almost inhuman. But Katsuki wouldn't accept it, wouldn't let a simple blow make him doubt himself. How dare he say he was better than him? Katsuki screams in his thought. How dare he enter this place freely like that through blackmail? And he kept playing him around like he was some kind of toy while Deku tried to ruin his life. It's a joke. It was as if those words were a poison he was trying to shake off from his system. No one, absolutely no one at this festival had managed to touch him like that. Not Dunce Face with his stupid electricity, not Icy Hot Sister with her dual quirk, and not even Man Hands with her weak quirk. They had all fallen before his power, because he believes that he's the best. Katsuki began to growl in anger, resembling a beast of some sort, and started throwing attacks blindly at him. One explosion after another as Izuku just retreated to the back avoiding the blast, but he still got caught by it no matter how fast he avoided. Of course, this act doesn't go unnoticed by the audience as they see him acting ferociously, throwing one explosion carelessly like that. Man, that Midoriya kid sure can hold his ground. Yeah, but don't forget that Bakugo kid is no joke. Speaking of which, did you guys think that he's acting feral or something? Like some kind of beast. I know, right? But that quirk, isn't that fire-type base, right? It has to be. Look at the ground. Doesn't it seem familiar? Katsuki relentlessly fired off one explosion after another, trying to put the quirkless freak in his place for playing with him all this time. Ruining his origin story, coming into UA through blackmail, acting all tough, looking down on him with those cold stares, sabotaging his gauntlet, sending him flowers to kill himself, exposing him with his article, tricking him into getting into trouble, humiliating him on the sports festival. Everything is Deku's fault. Katsuki roared in anger, throwing one explosion after another, wanting to wipe the smirk off his face, wanting to blast his face for ever looking down on him. He will pay and turn this arena into a horror show for him. The explosion kept hitting Izuku's body, relentlessly trying to defend himself as he took a defensive gesture, and that only seemed to fuel Katsuki's ego more inflated than it had. Izuku stood once again, panting violently and nursing his bruised ribs from the explosion. Katsuki, too, was panting, though trying to play up his confidence as he felt that the quirkless freak had finally understood his place. If you know so much about my quirk, then you should know that the more I fight, the stronger I get. Katsuki boasted, delivering an explosion to Izuku's stomach. Izuku tumbled over. The quirkless boy tried to rise, only to be kicked in the ribs by Katsuki's knee. You should have known that dragging this out would only make this more painful for you. Another explosion, another blast, makes Izuku tumble over. But no, you need to keep coming, trying to prove you worth more than what I tell you. An explosion on Izuku's shoulder, causing him to fall to the ground. Nothing but dirt under my shoe. Katsuki throws a smack. You should have just stayed down. Then a punch, given up. An explosion to his arm. Accept your place in this world. A kick to his chest, but no. An explosion to Izuku's ribs again. You just can't stop getting in my way. Ruining my perfect backstory just like you always do. A massive explosion rings out, echoing across the arena. The bright phosphorescent light briefly blinds viewers as Katsuki chuckles. You can't win, Deku. Nothing you can do can take me down. There was a brief silence, as Izuku dropped to his back after taking so many hits from the explosion. Just now the crowd was wincing and had to look away from the cruel scene that was folding in his eyes. But then, much to Katsuki's surprise, they heard a sound erupt from the quirkless boy's mouth. A small bark of laughter, simple and quick. But that small chuckle was followed by another and then another. Slowly, Izuku began to laugh, truly and fully. Katsuki, Midnight, All Might, even the world, stared in disbelief, as the bruised and battered boy kept laughing. One Izuku rose to his feet, his laughter petering out, and he met Katsuki's eyes dead on. Where Katsuki was expecting fear or sorrow, Izuku's eyes were filled with pity, like he was still looking down on him. "2. Honestly, I think I just realized how sad you are." Izuku's gaze never wavered from Katsuki, staring him down as Katsuki stared back. "You're fighting a battle, and all you're concerned with is some fictional backstory of your life. That's really all you care about." Izuku chuckled again, though, unlike Kendo, Katsuki could discern no fear from his voice, like he wasn't afraid of him. "All those 10 years, you were convinced that you were a king in your head. Everyone followed you and obeyed your orders, but you couldn't be more wrong. The truth is you're just a pathetic child who dreams of something out of reach. You're a sad, miserable existence." Katsuki grits his teeth, shaking his hand at the blatant disrespect that's thrown at him right now. He just wanted to show the quirkless freak his place in this arena. Seeing how he already beat him to 𝗬𝗵𝗲 and didn't make him waver, maybe he needs to turn up the notch. Out in anger, Katsuki propelled himself using his explosion and knee-kicked him in the gut, causing Izuku to fall back onto the ground with his back lying on the floor once again after being knocked down by Katsuki. "I wonder what's your endgame here, Deku. You can play with your stupid plan all you want, but as long as I'm in control, my life won't be your plaything." Katsuki stomps over to his abdomen.